Welcome to Reddit Stories, where OP's in-laws made him sign a prenup and really regret it. Am I the jerk for walking away from a house I have no equity or say in and stiffing my soon-to-be ex-wife? Before we got married, my in-laws set me down and explained that the house they helped my fiancé purchase was a wedding gift to her, not to us. Because of that, I was never going to be on any of the paperwork. They were very clear about it, and they also insisted on an ironclad prenup. I didn't argue. I hired my own lawyer and made sure I was protected too. Everything was above board. I knew exactly where I stood, legally speaking. After we got married, we split household expenses 50-50. It was a little more than what I used to pay when I lived on my own, but I figured that was normal. We were married and building a life together. For background, I'm a welder. I make a decent living, but I don't own much. I have a truck, my welding gear, a laptop, and clothes. Before I met my wife, I didn't even bother with a long-term lease. I worked 4 weeks on, then had 2 weeks off. It didn't make sense to rent a place that would sit empty for a month at a time. I stayed in Airbnbs or all-inclusive resorts during my time off. Once we were married, I fully committed to the household. I helped upgrade, renovate, and furnish the house. I didn't nickel and dime anything. If we needed something, we talked about it and split the cost. One simple example. We bought a really nice sectional for the living room. I gave my wife half the money up front. She put the purchase on her credit card to get the points. After that, it wasn't my concern. I assumed the money I gave her went where it was supposed to go. That assumption turned out to be wrong. A few months ago, I found out she had been seeing her ex while I was out of town for work. I didn't hear it through gossip or rumors. I had enough information to know that it was real. I don't play that game. I won't compete for someone's attention, and I don't forgive cheating. There was no screaming match, no confrontation scene. I didn't see the point. The last time I came home from work, I stayed at an Airbnb instead of going home. I used that time to talk to a lawyer and start the divorce process. When my time off ended, I went back to work like usual. My next break is after the new year. I already have a trip planned at an all-inclusive, somewhere quiet. From the moment I found out, I stopped giving her money. I haven't paid toward the mortgage. I haven't covered any bills. I won't be doing that again, now or in the future. Here's where things get messy. It turns out that she wasn't using the money I gave her to pay down the mortgage or her credit card balances. She spent it on other things. I don't even know exactly what. I just know that once my money stopped coming in, her lifestyle stopped working. She's now in a serious financial bind. My contribution made her life possible, and by leaving quietly and not engaging, I've essentially removed the support she was relying on. There's nothing left for me there. No ownership, no shared future, no emotional connection. We didn't even have a dog, something I really wanted, because she said it would be too much work for her while I was away. So when I left, I didn't take much, but a suit that I bought for our wedding, some gym clothes, and my dress shoes. That's it. Now she, her family, and her friends are all contacting me. They want me to help her financially during the divorce. I've been told I'm being cruel, vindictive, and punishing her too harshly. I don't see it that way. I don't have any obligation to support someone who broke our marriage, especially when I have no legal or financial stake in the house that I was paying into. After the divorce is finalized, I'll have even less obligation. I can live out of a suitcase and a backpack. My only real expense beyond housing is long-term parking for my truck. I've done this before, and I know how to live simply. Even my mom thinks I'm being too harsh. That one surprised me. My parents had a very ugly divorce years ago. They couldn't communicate, couldn't cooperate, and both ended up worse off because of it. She thinks I'm repeating that pattern in my own way. From my perspective, I'm just choosing to walk away cleanly instead of dragging things out. Am I the jerk? Not the jerk. The prenup did exactly what her family wanted it to do. They were very clear that the house was hers and hers alone, and that you were excluded from any ownership or control. That works both ways. You paid your share while you were married. You didn't hide assets, and you didn't fight for anything once the marriage ended. Walking away quietly, instead of turning it into a long financial battle, is already more generous than most people would be in this situation. If she's in trouble now, that's not because you left. It's because her budget depended on money that was never guaranteed. Refer everyone back to the prenup and let them sit with the consequences of the agreement that they insisted on. What stands out here is how cleanly you detached. No kids, no shared assets, no demands, no revenge tour. You just stopped participating once the marriage was over. People are acting like you're punishing her. No, you're not. You're just not continuing to subsidize her lifestyle after the relationship ended. There's a difference. You didn't take the house, you didn't drain accounts, and you're not asking for reimbursement. You simply walked away. That level of detachment is rare, and it gives you a lot of leverage without you ever having to use it. Not the jerk. Her family is upset because they're realizing they might have to step in now. That's really what this is about. As long as you were paying half, everything was fine. The moment that income stream disappeared, suddenly you're being framed as the bad guy. The prenup excluded you from the house. Unless you signed a lease or some other agreement, there's no legal or moral reason for you to keep paying after separation, especially given how things ended. She has options: sell the house, downsize, get help from her family, or adjust her spending. None of those are your responsibility anymore. So they wrote an ironclad prenup, and now they regret how well it worked. Turns out, contracts don't come with an undo button. Yeah, especially after cheating. That's what we call a self-funded lesson. Am I the jerk for telling a woman at the gym that she's embarrassing herself? I go to the gym a lot. I've been going regularly for a few years now, mostly to stay sane and keep some structure in my routine. About 6 months ago, I noticed a woman I'll call Andrea. That's not her real name, but it will be her name for this post. I don't know if Andrea started going to the gym around then, or if that's just when I noticed her. Either way, that's when this all started. Full disclosure, I spoke to her first. A lot of the machines at my gym have those little built-in TV screens that show local channels. One day I got on a treadmill and the TV wasn't working. Andrea was walking past, and I asked if she knew whether the cable was down or if it was just that machine. She said it happened on another machine too. I thanked her. That was the whole interaction. A week later, she asked if I had any electrolyte powder she could put in her water. I said I didn't. She was fine with that and started chatting. She asked how long I'd been going to the gym and what I did for work. I answered and asked her back. She said she was new to the area and worked in private security. It was all normal. We had a few more casual conversations like that over the next few weeks. About 6 weeks ago, she asked me out. She asked if I wanted to get a drink sometime. For reasons I won't get into here, I wasn't interested. I declined politely. She said not to worry about things being awkward at the gym if we didn't work out romantically. I said that wasn't the issue. I just wasn't looking to date. She kept talking to me after that. At first, I kept talking to her too, because I didn't want to be rude or make things uncomfortable. But I started to feel like something was off. I can't really explain it well. It felt like she was having a different conversation than I was. She seemed unusually intense and enthusiastic in a way that didn't match the situation. So I started avoiding her. 2 weeks ago, she walked up to me while I was on a machine that only has one way to get off, which meant I had to step into the space she was standing in. She asked if I was avoiding her. I said yes and apologized. I told her again that I wasn't looking to date and I just wanted space. She said I didn't need to avoid her just because I didn't want to date her. I said okay, but I still avoided her. Tonight, she confronted me again while I was working out and asked why I was avoiding her. I had a bad day and I told her to leave me alone. She asked why I was being a jerk, and I said because I wanted her to leave me alone. Then I told her she was embarrassing herself and needed to stop. She put her foot on the weights of the machine I was using. I thought she was about to press down on them, so I let go of the bar quickly and the weight slammed loudly. A bunch of people looked over. She said, "Now who's embarrassing himself?" and walked away. Did I go too far? Do I owe her an apology? Update. I went in early this morning for a run, and I told the front desk about Andrea putting her foot on the weights. They said they would talk to her. After work, I went back for my normal workout. I was working on my legs when she walked up to my machine. The first thing she did was apologize about the weights. I accepted it and apologized for saying she was embarrassing herself. She said she forgave me, but if I really wanted to make it up to her, I could buy her a drink, and she would buy me one too. I said maybe we should buy our own drinks, meaning separately, not together. She misunderstood and asked when and where. I clarified that I didn't want to go out with her. She said this wouldn't be a date, just a reset for our friendship. I said I didn't want to be friends. She got upset and asked what my problem was. I said the weight incident made me uncomfortable and that I wanted space. She pushed back and wanted me to explain exactly what about her behavior made me uncomfortable. I tried to explain, but she argued with every point I made. I eventually told her to please stay away from me. She said I had a lot of maturing to do and walked away. I'm hoping that's the end of it. Not the jerk. You tried to be polite multiple times. She didn't listen. That's the core of it. You're allowed to not want a relationship, a friendship, or a conversation. No is a complete sentence. At some point, her persistence stopped being awkward and started being not okay. Not the jerk. She either has some serious issues around boundaries or just hasn't learned how to socialize with people properly. No normal person would ever put you in that position. I make excuses too when I'm not interested, but when someone won't take a hint, you do eventually have to disregard their feelings. I mean, think about it. She disregarded yours. Update 8 days later. I was running on the treadmill and watching TV when she walked up to talk to me. I ignored her and kept staring at the screen. She raised her voice and I still didn't respond. Then she reached out and pulled the safety tab out of the treadmill, the clip you attach to your wrist so the treadmill stops if you fall. The treadmill stopped suddenly. I tripped forward and hit the console and screen, and I scratched my chin on the top edge. I went straight to the front desk and Andrea followed me. I told them what happened. She kept trying to interrupt and talk over me, but the woman at the front desk told her to wait her turn. I explained that Andrea pulled the safety tab while I was running and that I got hurt. When it was Andrea's turn, she said I was staring into the middle distance like I was having some kind of medical episode and that she pulled the tab to help me. The front desk worker asked for Andrea's membership card. Andrea refused at first, and the staff member told her that if she didn't hand it over, she would be banned. Andrea gave her the card, and the staff member told her she was suspended for a month. Andrea started arguing with the staff member. It escalated into Andrea yelling at her. At that point, the staff member said she was permanently banned and cut up her card. I hesitate to call that a happy ending because the poor employee had to deal with harassment, but I won't pretend it wasn't satisfying to see it finally handled. Edit. Since this keeps coming up in the comments, I want to clarify something. Yes, I date women. I recently ended a 3-year relationship with a woman, and she would absolutely confirm to you that I'm attracted to women. I just don't experience attraction as purely visual or automatic. I don't see someone and immediately reduce them to hot or not, especially when I already have a relationship context with them. For example, I have a friend I've known since childhood. She's objectively very beautiful. Plenty of people have told her that. I can recognize that she's beautiful, but my first thought when I see her is, that's my friend who I care about, not, that's an attractive woman I could sleep with. I've never been attracted to her because we treat each other like siblings. In this situation, even if Andrea had been my physical type, which she's not, and even if I'd been looking to start a new relationship, which I'm not, it still wouldn't have mattered. Her behavior made me uncomfortable, and I'm not interested in dating someone who puts other people in physical danger when they're upset, no matter what they look like. Update 4 days later. Last night, I went to a bar near my apartment to meet up with 2 friends. The 3 of us were sitting at a table, having a few drinks, just having a normal night out. At some point, Andrea walked up to our table. I didn't see her come in. I only noticed her when she was suddenly standing right in front of us. She smiled and said it was good to see me, then leaned in like she was going to kiss me. I pushed her away instinctively. She lost her balance and fell backward, but one of my friends caught her before she hit the ground. She immediately started yelling, asking what was wrong with me, why I would do that, why I was acting like this. I told her to stay away from me and not come any closer. She asked if I was embarrassed of her and didn't want my friends to see her. I told her this was the 3rd time she had crossed a physical boundary with me and that I wanted her to leave me alone. That's when the bouncer came over and asked what was going on. Andrea said that I pushed her for no reason. I tried to explain that she tried to kiss me without consent and that she had been following me and showing up in my space for weeks. I was drunk and not explaining it very well. My friends tried to back me up, but they were also drunk and not exactly clear either. The bouncer then told me to leave. My friends walked me home. I'm done trying to be polite about this. I'm going to start the process of getting a restraining order. This has gone way too far, and I don't feel safe brushing it off anymore. This stopped being awkward a while ago and turned into straight-up stalking. Showing up at your gym, messing with your equipment, then finding you at a bar and trying to kiss you is not normal behavior. You're right to take it seriously now. Update 6 months later. I did get a restraining order against Andrea, like many of you suggested. It wasn't very effective. When I saw her and called the police, she was usually gone by the time they arrived. A couple of officers even gave me a hard time about calling. They seemed to think I was wasting their time because I'm a man and she's a woman. The stress started to affect my job performance. My boss was sympathetic at first, but my coworkers grew annoyed. Also, the fact that Andrea had shown up at my workplace became a serious liability for the company. I could see where things were heading, and I knew I was probably going to be fired. So I finally did what I had been putting off for a long time. I moved back home and decided to go back to school. That wasn't easy. The situation with Andrea was more traumatic than I'd been able to admit to myself. I tried therapy. The first therapist I saw thought my problem was that I was too closed off and didn't want to give what sounded like a nice young woman a chance. That experience was not helpful, so I stopped going for a while. Eventually, my friends convinced me to try again, and I found a therapist who has actually been great. My family wasn't very supportive at first, but they came around a little over time. My friends have been solid throughout all of this. They're honestly the reason I didn't fall apart. I also got back together with my high school girlfriend. I know, ironic. It isn't perfect and it's not easy, but we're working on it. I'll be starting school again at the beginning of the spring semester. All in all, I'm okay. I'm not amazing, but I'm okay. Now, for what everyone actually wants to know. What happened to Andrea? I've stayed as far away from her as possible. One of my more tech-savvy friends kept an eye on her public online activity just in case she posted anything that suggested she knew where I moved or had plans to come near me again. He didn't update me unless it was safety-related. A few weeks ago, he told me I might feel safer knowing that Andrea is engaged. So that's something. I'm honestly amazed by that turn of events. There really is someone for everyone, even crazy stalkers. So that's the update. No prison time for Andrea, just marriage, which is its own kind of prison in a way. Just kidding. That's all, folks. Wow, I actually find myself feeling a little bad for the person who's engaged to her. I'm really glad that you're doing better now. It's sad that you had to force that situation just to get through it, but it seems like things worked out about as well as they possibly could, maybe even better. Congrats, and I hope everything continues to go well for you. This story starts as an awkward gym flirting and ends as a multi-season thriller. OP just wanted a leg day, not a villain origin story. It's like watching someone slowly realize they're in a horror movie, not a romantic comedy, with bonus side quests like unwanted workplace visits and surprise bar appearances. This is what happens when someone treats boundaries like optional settings and another person's life like public property. Yeah, it's a rough story, but I'm glad OP landed somewhere safe. Sometimes the win isn't justice, it's distance. Don't touch my garbage. Hey all, friendly neighborhood trash panda here. The giant kind, not the bandit kind. That'll make sense in a minute. Some backstory first. I work as a sanitation engineer with a primary focus on residential communities. In plain English, I'm a garbage collector for houses. See, now the name makes sense. Our collection is handled automatically. The trucks have a hydraulic grabber arm that we control from inside the cab. We don't manually lift bags or toss garbage by hand. Most of the time, we don't even need to get out of the truck. It's a pretty straightforward job once you get the hang of it. What most people don't realize is there are a lot of rules involved in garbage collection, and I mean a lot. There are rules about what materials are allowed, how much you can put in a bin, weight limits, whether the lid is fully closed, and one of the biggest ones is bin placement. Bins are supposed to be placed at least 1 meter from anything else. That includes parked cars, fences, and other bins. The reason is simple. It gives the hydraulic arm enough room to grab the bin safely without scraping a car or knocking over a mirror or a headlight. In practice, this rule gets bent a little. With experience, you get pretty good at grabbing bins even when they're close together. And if it's really tight, we'll hop out, move a bin a bit so that it's easy to grab, dump it, then put it back. There are two reasons we do this. First, we're not trying to be jerks. Most of us live in the same communities we work in. It's just the neighborly thing to do. Second, issuing violations is a pain. It's a lot of paperwork. It's way faster to spend 30 seconds moving a bin than 5 minutes filling out forms and writing tickets. Now for the story. We service a community where garbage and recycling are collected on the same day. That means 2 bins, 2 trucks, and 2 drivers. Most residents put both bins side by side, often touching. Technically a violation, but very common. What usually happens is whichever truck gets there first dumps their bin, then moves it a foot or 2 away from the other bin. That makes it easier for the second driver. It saves time for everyone and keeps the route moving smoothly. And normally, nobody complains. Until someone does. One resident complained that we were moving her bins, and the complaint made its way up the chain. And both myself and my colleague were disciplined. We were instructed to place bins back exactly where we found them, no exceptions. Our trucks were monitored by dash cam for a few weeks, and our supervisor would come out after our shift to check this specific house to make sure the bins hadn't moved. Not gonna lie, it was frustrating. We got in trouble because someone had to take 2 extra steps to grab her bin. But we complied exactly to the letter. Unfortunately for her, she had a habit of placing her bins directly beside each other. Since that's a spacing violation, we could no longer grab them. There wasn't enough room for the arm. So every week for 2 months straight, we'd pull up to her house, see the bins touching, document the violation, place a notice on the bins, and move on without dumping them. Eventually, she figured it out. She started placing her bins about 3 feet apart. Funny how that works. We never heard another complaint about us moving her bins. By that point, though, she'd accumulated quite a bit of garbage. Regulations allow 1 bin per pickup. Anything extra comes with a fee, and it's not cheap. This right here is why people need to stop assuming sanitation workers are being petty or lazy. There are rules for a reason, and when someone messes with your bin, you're the one who gets stuck with the citation, not them. I've had almost the exact same thing happen. Bins spaced properly, lids closed, everything out on time. Neighbor parks too close where they're not supposed to, blocks access, then dumps extra trash into my bin so it's overflowing. I come home to a notice, but thankfully the photo showed the parked car and the city could tell what actually happened. They came back the next day to pick it up, and the neighbor got a ticket. All I ever asked was don't park there on trash days, that's it. It's wild how little consideration would save everyone time, money, and frustration. This thread is a good reminder that being decent to service workers costs nothing and it pays off constantly. If someone who does a job every day is willing to bend a rule to help you out, there's probably a good reason for it. I've always tried to be polite to maintenance, cleaners, drivers, and sanitation crews. Over the years, it's come back in small ways. Extra help, clearer explanations, or just smoother interactions. People forget these folks are the reason our neighborhoods function. Trash gets picked up, streets stay usable, workplaces don't fall apart. The least we can do is not make their job harder over something petty. Respect really does go a long way. Update. Hey all, friendly neighborhood trash panda here, back with another story. As part of one of my routes, I have to go down a very narrow back alley. At its widest, it's maybe 10 feet across. It requires near-perfect precision to get through without clipping a mirror. It's doable, but you pay attention. Almost all the garbage carts in that alley are on one side, except for one house right in the middle. Their bin is on the opposite side. Not a big deal. I get out, move the bin across the alley, dump it, and leave it on the main side for the homeowner to move back later. I've been doing this for weeks. The route is new, so it's only been about a month. Simple, easy, no issues. Until this week. This time, the homeowner noticed. They followed me on foot a block and a half away to the next street just to complain. Their issue was that I was leaving their bin on the wrong side of the alley. They told me the old company used to drive down the alley twice instead of moving the bin. For context, the old driver reportedly had medical issues that made getting in and out of the truck difficult. He preferred to drive the same alley multiple times rather than walk 10 steps. He also skipped a lot of carts and spent more effort finding reasons not to collect than actually doing the job. There's a reason my company took over the contract. I tried to explain that according to my contract, I technically wasn't even supposed to drive down that alley. They told me I was lying and said they worked for the town, the same town that contracted us. At that point, I didn't see the point in arguing. I just told them I'd move their bin back to its original spot after dumping it from now on. That satisfied them and they walked back home. There's no physical limitation preventing them from walking 10 feet to retrieve their bin. It's not close enough to other bins to get mixed up. It's just someone being difficult for the sake of it. Now, I did consider some petty options. I could confirm with the town that the alley is off limits and stop servicing it entirely, which would force several residents to drag their bins to the main road. That would also punish people who did nothing wrong. I could also work strictly to the rules and ticket that bin for even the smallest issue. A lid slightly open, anything. It would be allowed under the contract. But the previous company did that constantly, and it left a bad taste in the community. That's part of why I got the contract in the first place. I live in the area. I see these people at the store, at events, everywhere. I'd rather build goodwill than rack up complaints. So instead, I do the simplest thing. I walk the bin back after dumping it. Yes, it's 10 extra steps, and no, it's not worth the effort to turn that into a bigger problem. So yeah, no dramatic ending. Just a reminder that some people will always find something to complain about. It's almost my weekend. When my shift ends, I'll be grabbing a six-pack and putting on my weekend alter ego, Trashed Panda. Have a good one, everyone. And remember, we're all in this together. If I were the homeowner and noticed you kept leaving my bin on that side because it made pickup easier, I'd just start putting it there myself. Problem solved. It's wild how some people see a small adjustment as a personal attack instead of a practical solution. If someone can walk a block and a half to complain, they can definitely move a bin a few feet. I don't get why people make simple jobs harder than they need to be, especially when the person doing the job is clearly trying to help. Am I the jerk for not getting my daughter a car after she publicly disrespected me? So last week, me, my wife, and 2 kids went out to the zoo for my daughter's 23rd birthday. We were having a great time. While leaving an enclosure, some woman sort of cut us off and pushed in front of us to get out first. She didn't actually touch us, and it wasn't that big of a deal, but it was a little obnoxious. And I said, "There's no need to push ahead, love." She responded with something like, "How did I push ahead? It's not like there's a queue." I just tutted and thought, whatever, not worth it. But then some giant guy, who was apparently her son, I didn't realize this because they looked very different, said to her, "What, does someone have a problem, Mom?" And she pointed me out. Her son then turned around and started aggressively antagonizing me for no reason, telling me to keep my comments to myself, called me names, called me a Karen, and he kept calling me tiny, saying I had little man syndrome. Just really off-the-wall stuff for what I thought was a benign comment. Then for some reason, my daughter, who's 22, felt the need to take up for this guy and started saying stuff like, "Why are you like this? Why do you feel the need to say something?" And then started apologizing to the guy and agreed with him that I'm a Karen. I was really taken aback by this. Then the guy asks how old she is and she tells him, and he asks for her number and she gives it to him. He hands his phone over to her and she types in her number. The whole time, this guy is staring at me with a grin on his face. When my daughter comes back over to us, I ask her what the heck was that, and she just says, "What? He's cute, and you need to be put in your place every once in a while." I said, since this is what she thinks, she can buy her own car for her birthday. She clearly thought that I wasn't serious because she asked if we can look at cars, and I told her that she can look herself because I'm still not paying for it. This has divided my house with my son taking my side, saying she was out of line, and my wife saying it's not worth ruining my relationship with her over. I feel like if not getting her a car as punishment is enough to ruin her relationship with me, then I probably spoiled her too much anyway. She already has a car that I bought her 2 years ago, which works fine, so it's not like I'm exactly depriving her. Am I the jerk? I'm at work on my lunch break right now, so I can't really reply. I have skimmed the comments, and I will address a few things that I think are relevant. 1. The car I bought her 2 years ago was a rundown Fiat 500, secondhand. It's in fine shape, but not exactly the nicest car. I had promised my daughter an Audi, as my son is going traveling for his 21st birthday, which I'm paying for. The car she wanted was roughly the same cost. 2. She doesn't live at home. She hasn't since she moved out for uni at 18. I don't feel like I am a Karen, but I'm not shy to speak up and complain if I feel I must. If people are rude or something is not up to my standard, I'll happily say something. I realistically couldn't fight this 6'4" or whatever 20-something-year-old mouthing off to me. I'm 47 years old and I've worked an office job for the last 20 to 30 years, and I have a bad back. Why would you buy her another car when you bought her one 2 years ago? You made the entitled brat's bed. Guess you can lay in it. Wife and daughter are the jerks here, not you. OP. The first car was a little runaround Fiat. It works fine, but it isn't the nicest. She wanted an Audi, which I said I would get her. Update. So I got home about an hour ago, and my wife called me into the room to talk. She gave me an ultimatum. She said I can either swallow my pride and buy my daughter the car, or she will buy the car out of her own money. My wife doesn't earn as much as me, but still has a well-paying job and can afford it. She said that everyone is sick of my attitude in public, that every time we go out, I get in some sort of altercation or disagreement with someone over something petty. I think this is a gross over-exaggeration, but my wife showed me texts from my daughter asking if she can go out with just my wife because I always do something to embarrass everyone. My wife refused and defended me, saying that's not true, and that's why when I got in that argument, my wife said nothing about my daughter's actions. She said she isn't going to punish my daughter because I can never keep my mouth shut, especially when my daughter said she didn't want me there because something like this would happen, and she defended me only to be made to look like a fool. She says that my daughter barely likes me as it is, and if I do this, I shouldn't be shocked when she stops talking to me completely. I asked my wife if all I am to my daughter is a piggy bank, and she told me to stop playing the victim. She said it's up to me what I want to do with my money, but my daughter will be getting the car one way or another, so I can either make her hate me for no reason, or I can swallow my pride and get her the car myself. Don't really know where to go from here. Update. So I waited for my son to get home, and my daughter drove around a little later. We all sat down and decided to talk. I started by doing what many of you suggested and asked for actual examples rather than just accepting their word for it. And honestly, a lot of it sounded ridiculous. The fact that I sent back a steak twice because both times it was undercooked, as if it's a crime to want a $180 steak cooked correctly. The fact that I argued with someone who sat in our assigned seats at a cinema, even though it was nearly empty. Again, as if it's a crime to want to sit in the seat that I paid for when there's dozens of other places for these people to sit. And other equally silly things which I can't be bothered to get into and don't even really remember as a result of the insignificance of it. Despite me thinking that it was all ridiculous, I said I would do my best to be a meek pushover in public if that was the only way to get them to like me, and that I would get the car on one condition, that my daughter hadn't actually texted the guy who mistreated me. I asked to look at her messages, and she said not to even bother because she had texted him and I didn't have the right to control who she talks to. I said that is true, but I do have the right to spend my money on whatever I want, and I'm not getting my daughter a car. She has one that works fine, and even if I am a jerk, in a situation where her family is getting threatened, she sided with the aggressor and then doubled down on that, and that is unforgivable. My daughter blew up at me and said that I'm a petty little pig-headed man with a Napoleon complex and that all the money in the world hasn't stopped me from being a loser. I said, "Oh yeah? Because the guy who screams at old men is such a winner." And she screamed at me that I'm not a victim, and then something about how cathartic it was to watch someone stand up to me, and that how the second he did, she watched me shrink back into the little coward I'd always been growing up. That was the final straw. I told her to get out, but she doubled down and told me that my wife had told them about me being bullied growing up, and that's why I am the way I am. I saw my wife turn pale as a ghost at this comment. This is something I confided in her in private. Clearly, this is why my daughter stopped respecting me. Obviously, I wasn't cool enough for her or whatever. I was speechless, but my daughter carried on. She said, "Make a genuine promise to Jake he can still go to Cambodia and ask him what he really thinks." I just nodded. Her brother begged not to be put in the middle of this, but I insisted. All he said was, "Sometimes you can be a bit much, Dad." My daughter called him a wimp and just walked out. My son ran off to his room, and my wife drove off after my daughter. She didn't come back last night. I've not heard from my wife or daughter since. I've called out of work. My son left for university without saying a word to me. I've barely slept a wink. I can't believe it. I'm a cliché, a rich old man whose family hates him. If I was lost before, now I'm genuinely clueless about what I'm supposed to do. See a therapist. You may have some underlying issues here, but your family isn't innocent. Get a therapist to weigh in on this. Clearly, your wife betrayed your trust, and your daughter is a 23-year-old entitled kid that you are responsible for. Go to therapy, make it a family therapist, and get actual help. OP, I don't believe in therapy. I didn't need it then, and I don't need it now. I don't need to pay some random person $200 an hour to tell me it's wrong to stand up for myself. Everything about this update still reads like you're the jerk. They give you examples and you ridicule them. When everyone but you sees a situation a certain way, the problem is you, not everyone else. You exhibit major toxic masculinity vibes, and I'm sorry, but 47 isn't old. Get over yourself, get help. You're a cliché because you're a jerk. They dislike you for a reason. OP, if I go to a flat earth convention and say the world is round, does that magically make me wrong, or am I just in a room full of idiots? I don't believe in therapy, says the people who need it the most. I laughed out loud. I'm a joke. I don't know how to fix it. Therapy. Oh, if only there was something to help fix it. Therapy. So sad for having no way of being fixed. Therapy. Oh, cruel world. I don't believe in therapy. Sounds to me like you should do therapy about that. This was a fascinating read. It's so rare to see the other side and into the mind of someone like this. He's going to lose his family. The kids are all grown. The mother has no reason to bite her tongue. And this man will still blame everyone for everything except himself. This daughter calls her dad a loser, but everything she has is because of her loser dad. Why can't she just buy her own car without the parents buying her one? And then the wife, what the heck? Sharing OP's drama and childhood issues? How many people did she go around and tell? Because I bet it's more than just the daughter. And since your issues have been brought out to the open, the OP has regressed and become insecure and vulnerable again, thanks to the wife and daughter. Just give them what they want and ask for. Because OP, you are not what they want. Because like they mentioned, OP is an embarrassment. Well, who do you think is the jerk? OP or everyone else? Please let us know. I know we'll lose some subscribers for this and people will call me a Karen, but I don't know. I just feel bad for this dude. My wife is demanding I cut ties with my female best friend. Me and Allie met through a mutual friend in 2012 during a pub quiz at university. I was quite attracted to her and actually told her so at the end of the evening, but she told me she had a boyfriend even though she was flattered all the same. Fast forward 3 years, I meet Eliza at the Edinburgh Fringe and we just clicked immediately. Politics, music, cinema, whatever the subject approached, there was a spark that I'd never felt with anyone else. Like she just made sense with me. Her personality was just vivid. It's hard to describe, but I'll try. On first impression, she was so knowledgeable and enthusiastic, I was taken aback by her intensity. From that point onwards, we were inseparable, and I was dead certain on our future together, long before we got engaged. Enter Allie again. I started a new job at an advertising firm with a position in web design, and she was one of the only people I knew. At first, it was a little awkward given our history, especially considering that she was now married to the boyfriend she was dating back then. But there was no one else I knew at the firm, and we both had partners at this point, so it couldn't hurt to be friends, right? And to be honest, I'm glad, because I feel like our chemistry as friends superseded any potential we might have had as a couple. She's clever and has a bit of a cheeky personality. I'm quite dry and sarcastic myself, so I reckon we have a pretty fun dynamic. Eliza doesn't seem to feel that way though. Sometimes when it's been the three of us, she has expressed a feeling of being left out or that Allie has been making fun of her. I don't see it. It's just our dynamic. But there have been a couple of nights where Eliza's been in tears because of something that Allie has said. One time, Eliza got out of her seat and Allie sat down where she had been sitting to show me a video on YouTube. When Eliza came back in, she saw Allie leaning next to me and was upset for the rest of the night. Sometimes there have been times where Allie has said something that Eliza has read as a come on. Like when I said I missed swimming because I felt out of shape, and Allie said, "The two of us should go together," with a playful punch. Eliza didn't say anything at the time, but her discomfort was visible. Things really came to a head though on our wedding, and I think the stress of it really got to Eliza. During the reception, Allie bumped into her and red wine spilled all over her dress. She was bawling the entire evening. We're now on our honeymoon, and Eliza has said she hopes for a fresh start, but she feels like Allie might have spilled her wine on purpose. She's suggesting that I cut ties with her, and if I'm honest, I'm not so sure I want to. Where do I go from here? The number of times I've bumped into someone and spilt my drink on them is exactly once in my entire life, and I was drunk at the time. You're either astoundingly naive, or Allie is somehow the unluckiest woman in the world to accidentally spill her red wine on the bride on her wedding day. I think you know which one is more likely. Your wife won't be staying your wife for much longer unless you start actually listening to her and stop dismissing all of her fears as baseless insecurities. OP. Allie was getting a drink from the bar. Eliza had taken off part of her gown for dining and dancing purposes and was leaving our bedroom to return to our table. They bumped into each other, and Eliza had a huge red stain over her dress. Allie made an offhand joke and fled, and Eliza ran up to me in bits and pieces. It sounded really bad when Eliza told me, and she was in bits about the wine being spilled all over her dress, and I went to Allie and asked what was up. Allie was so mortified and told me she wanted to sink into a hole. She's dyspraxic and has struggled with falling at impromptu moments. I've actually witnessed it happening before. There was a meeting at work, and she gets our colleagues coffee. The moment she came in, she tripped and fell. Coffee flew everywhere. Allie bumped into your wife in her wedding dress, spilling wine all over it, and made an offhand joke before fleeing? What kind of response is that? OP. She's a really awkward person and doesn't know how to interact with people sometimes. There have been times I've been upset with her because of how glib she's been about personal issues. It really sounds like you're putting your friend first. No wonder your wife is unhappy. She comes back in tears from hanging out, and you still invite Allie to the wedding. What was that conversation like? OP. She got really upset one time during banter because me and Allie like to roast each other regularly, and Allie roasted her a little too hard, I guess. We were singling out things to insult each other on, and the subject went to Eliza, and Eliza mentioned she had webbed feet. Since then, Allie's called her leapfrog. When I say it, Eliza takes it in good stride, but when Allie says it, it's this massive problem. I don't get it. Eliza has suggested that Allie's being serious when she says it, as opposed to when I do, but she roasts me the same way too. She said I looked like a juggalo's poodle that day because I was wearing baggy metal clothes and hadn't styled my hair, so it was all frizzing all over the place. I don't know how your wife puts up with either of you two, to be honest. Why haven't you stuck up for your wife all those times that Allie has hurt her? OP. I guess because I didn't know that I needed to. It seems like a perspective thing. Eliza is a passionate person who cries at deluxe puppy adverts, and the intensity is great for a partner, but it can cause problems with friendships. She reads a lot into things her friends do, thinking it's intentional, and when she talks to them about what they did, they will be completely shocked and unaware that they hurt her. Allie is a very sarcastic person in general, who rolls with the punches, and to me it reads like they struggle to gel, rather than intentional cruelty on Allie's part. But for what it's worth, Allie has told me that she's really keen on Eliza and thinks she's really cool. Update. You know, I posted here recently looking for guidance on how to deal with my wife's anxiety and hurt revolving around my friend, and it seems like I got read the riot act. Probably rightly so. I have been completely inconsiderate of Eliza's feelings and how she feels about these roastings, and you alerted me to the possibility that Allie is doing this just to be a little jerk. I sat down with Eliza and we had an in-depth conversation about the wedding incident. I got her to describe the event step by step in her own words. I was leaving the lobby into the dining venue, and Allie was a little tipsy at this point and already stumbling from the bar. She was initially walking slower, but seemed to speed up when she saw me. We collided into each other, and she pulled an ashamed face and made a joke about me looking like Rosamund Pike in Gone Girl before scurrying away. She seemed embarrassed in the moment, but she didn't apologize to me. I heard from other people that she was appalled about what had happened, but I never heard anything from her directly. It just paints a picture of habitual microaggressions from her that has festered into this ugly anxiety whenever she's around. I pretty much predict whenever I'm in her vicinity, there will be a weird behavior or uncomfortable comments, and I don't want to continue being in a situation where my husband brings someone into my home who resents me for simply existing. This was a real gut punch to me. For me, I always felt like it was just insecurity about me fancying Allie for 10 minutes a long time ago. But Eliza is really torn about this. She said that the honeymoon has been miserable because the memory has been swirling around in her mind, and she feels like I'm going to downplay or dismiss it. No one should feel like they just can't be themselves, especially not at home. I didn't realize what a jerk I had been, and I apologized profusely to Eliza and decided to call up Allie to confront her about the wedding incident. So I did it, and it didn't go well. Basically, I told her that Eliza was really hurt by the wedding dress incident, that she had been hurt by her behavior for a long time, and that if she can't bring herself to apologize to Eliza's face, at least she should pay it forward by getting the stain removed. And if she couldn't bring herself to even do that, then our friendship had to stop. To say that Allie was taken aback would be an understatement. She was completely blindsided, asking what was wrong with their interactions that made me want to go to such extremes. I mentioned that leapfrog comment, and she went, "But even you call her that," stating that Eliza called her Garfield because of her weight and bright orange hair. When I mentioned that she ran towards Eliza and didn't apologize for spilling wine on her, she got really upset and started shouting that she wasn't running at her to hurl wine at her dress. She was running from her because she didn't want to talk at that moment, because she feels like Eliza hates her and she doesn't know how to go about it. She started pointing out times when Eliza has been funny towards her, and I basically said, "Right, but this isn't about when Eliza has hurt you. This is about when you've hurt Eliza, and it's got so bad that it needs to be talked about." And she started laughing. It was really uncomfortable. I know she does this when she's anxious about something. Eliza asked me if things were okay from the other room, and Allie demanded if this was set up, and when I tried to explain myself, she hung up. Her husband even phoned me, insisting that he would pay for the damage if it's less stressful for me. I told Ewan, her husband, that I appreciated that, but I needed to know where Allie stood regarding what I just said. Ewan told me that Allie makes jokes whenever she's anxious or uncomfortable, and that they've wrote about it in the past, but the wedding dress incident is a major issue and that he wants to smooth things over as much as I do. So him and Allie will pay towards dry cleaning, whilst a condolences hamper is sent to Eliza. Eliza was relieved that Ewan was so understanding, but she wasn't thrilled about Allie's reaction. Basically said the Garfield comment was always about her hair and never about her weight, and that she was deliberately trying to make it seem like the bad behavior went both ways. I don't think it went both ways either, because I've never noticed Eliza roasting Allie in any real way. Eliza has suggested we try marriage counseling. I was a bit shocked at first, because we've only been married for a month, but I decided maybe that's the way forward, because if Eliza reckons that we need counseling for it, then it's clearly a problem. So yeah, me and Eliza are going to try marriage counseling, and my future with Allie is uncertain. Am I the jerk for not telling my boyfriend I won money 15 years ago? I don't know what I did wrong, or if it was something that I did wrong, but I need advice. I didn't want to post this on my real account because I want to be anonymous. My boyfriend, 35 male, and I, 35 female, were discussing finances as we wanted to be on the same page. My boyfriend moved in with me unexpectedly 3 months ago as his landlord decided to move into the property with his family. We were discussing finances and the topic of how I own my place came up. I explained I won some money. Not a lot, but enough to be able to put myself through nursing school, purchase my home, and have some savings back in 2009. And I bought my place outright and then rented it out until I moved back into it late 2018. Obviously, I had some luck on my side as this was right in the middle of the recession, so I got my place for real cheap. He says I deceived him by giving him the impression that I was financially well off and that I led him to believe I was more business savvy than I was. I don't know how I did that because I literally work as a nurse, making decent money, fully own my home, fully own my car, have decent retirement plans and decent savings. I'm fairly certain that I am financially better off than most people I know. He says that he can't trust me anymore and that he was stupid to have listened to my financial advice. But the thing is, I never gave him any financial advice, except for telling him not to buy a car that was in my opinion unreliable and much too expensive. Did I deceive him by not telling him how I got myself financially stable? FYI, we've been dating for almost a year and a half. Edit. I just had another very weird conversation with him, and I honestly can't wrap my head around it. Yeah, so he is definitely a gold digger. He asked me how much I have in savings and seemed impressed with how much, and then said maybe he reacted too aggressively. Then asked/told me that he still wants the car I advised him not to get. He hinted at me getting it for him as a birthday present since it's his birthday in early March. I'm definitely dumping him. Going to wait till my 2 sisters and my 2 brother-in-laws can come over before I break up with him in case he reacts crazy. Edit 2. He's jealous and also resentful. He's ranting about how he would have tripled the money if he had won. Edit 3. He's saying that my money is wasted on me because I don't make it make money. Apparently, I should have been investing my savings in high-yielding stocks and other crap. FYI, I do get financial advice from a financial advisor I trust, but I am a risk-averse person, so I would never invest it in the manner this idiot is telling me to. Sure, the chance to get a lot of money is there, but so is the chance to lose. Edit 4. He's now on a crazy rant because I suggested we take a break from this argument because I don't want to ruin my few days off. I can't believe how he's acting. He thinks he's so clever, but I'm thoroughly disgusted. Oh, it's absolutely over between us. Okay, I understand him much better now. So my house and the property it's on is what led him to believe I was much richer than I am. He assumed I was loaded, so me telling him I actually got lucky ticked him off. When he found out how much in savings and assets I have, he perked up and had a change of mind. He's now telling me that with just a quarter of my money, he can show me how to invest in the stock market and make real money. Oh, he is genuinely deluded. Not the jerk. This feels like jealousy on his part, so he's lashing out. Out of interest, how long have you been together? Because this kind of information can take a while to disclose. If you were together when you won the money and hid it from him, that might be a different argument. Also, you are financially savvy because you got a windfall and didn't waste it. Well done, you. It sounds like you were very responsible about how you spent your windfall, securing yourself a home, paying for your education, and putting the rest aside in savings. I'm not sure about what he's questioning. My concern is that he might have thought you were very wealthy and was hoping you would be his sugar mama. Is he only in this for the money? Thank goodness you found this out right now. I would make him an ex-boyfriend and kick him out. Don't want him to start laying claims to your home's equity after he lives there too long, depending on state and provincial laws on common law partners. He's jealous. He also thinks that you were his meal ticket. He's angry over nothing reasonable. 1.5 years isn't very long, and you don't owe someone the whole, I bought this house because I got money from blah blah blah. Am I the jerk for telling my husband that I can't do this anymore after he quit his job to work with his mother? We're due to have our daughter in 2 weeks and planned ahead of time so I could stay home for a year with her while I'm nursing. We saved around $26,000 plus took into consideration that at his job he was making $3,000 a month, $23 hourly. Our bills for the year come out to around $46,000. Since we got pregnant, his mom has been super overbearing with the boy mom BS. She's been trying to force her way into our lives in ways that I'm not okay with, like trying to convince us to buy a house with her so she can help raise her baby's baby. My husband actually considered this and I shot it down immediately. Has been stomping in whenever she feels like it with stuff for him and only him. Like she literally brings him food, one serving, only enough for him, around dinner time, probably 2 to 3 days a week, saying, I just know you miss mama's cooking. Keeps buying him mom plus son jewelry, knowing he won't wear jewelry, and tells me he will wear it. It's a mom and son thing. You wouldn't understand. When I tell her he's not going to wear it, he hasn't worn any of it. She's 100% treating him like he is her husband, calling him to go do things for her all hours of the day and night, and all around just trying to get him out of our house and over to hers. On the off chance that he does go over, she's like, since you're here, I will let you treat me to a mom and son date at Denny's. Or when she's here, she will look at me and tell me how she takes her coffee and expect me to go make it for her. I know I'm rambling, but this woman is crazy. And no, she was not like this prior to me getting pregnant. They barely spoke before I got pregnant. As soon as she found out we were having a baby, she sunk her claws in, with the whole, my baby isn't a baby anymore, BS. We're literally in our 30s. So if all else wasn't insane enough, she's been trying to convince my husband for the last 3 months to quit his job, search and rescue, and go work for her so they can spend more time together. She works at a medical rehab facility. I told him I won't tolerate that for one reason. It's $13 an hour, $10 less an hour than he makes now. I've talked reason with him. Like if he goes there, I'll end up having to go back to work because $13 an hour cuts his monthly income in half, just about. And this is not what we agreed to or planned on. Not only that, but her job is bi-weekly pay and doesn't have benefits for a year. He had full benefits at his job. He told me he didn't want to work with his mom and not to worry about it. About 2 months ago he said that. But I just found out last night that he did in fact quit his job and applied at the place his mom works at and bypassed the interview process because mommy vouched for him. So now he has a job with her. I wasn't nice about it when he told me, admittedly. I asked him why he would do that, and he goes, well, my mom is getting older, and she wanted me to work with her so we can hang out more before she passes. She's literally 61 and healthy. I slept on it and decided I couldn't do this. I told him this morning that I couldn't do this. I'm not going to be overruled by a woman who refuses to stay in her lane. I'm not going to bow down to a mommy's boy or a woman who grossly won't leave her son alone. He can do it on his own, and we can do this separately. I told him I will take the money I saved, $23,000 of the $26,000, and figure it out on my own, and that he needs to leave and go back to being with his mom. He, for whatever reason, is shell-shocked that I'm taking it this far and saying I'm the jerk for not understanding that his mother is getting older and wanting to spend time with him should be important. I'm not budging though. He's allowing her to destroy our lives. Edit to add, I want to touch base on financials real quick for the people commenting, being a single mom is going to be great. If he was to leave and we got divorced, my bills would reduce by at least 1/4 if not more. I've been helping him pay off his student loan debt for 5 years, and the price keeps increasing, so there's no end in sight. With the $23,000 that I saved, I could pay for my home and bills for a year and a half. When I add his bills and his debt to the equation, it won't even cover a year. I'm not afraid of single motherhood. He would be involved regardless if we separate as well. ETA again. He signed a prenup. I owned the house long before we started dating. I withdrew my $23,000 from the bank and put it in my personal account. I already spoke to an attorney, and I'm in the clear to do so because I have a paper trail on what was mine versus what was his. I'm an accountant. Numbers and money is kind of my specialty. I have it all handled legality-wise. Not the jerk. He has a family. That should be his first priority. By taking this new job, he's putting his family in financial burden. Mommy also needs to step back. She feels like she's gonna lose her son, but that's no excuse. Am I the jerk for dropping out as my brother's best man a couple of days before his wedding? I'm 36, and my brother, who's 30, got married this past weekend. I was supposed to be his best man. The wedding was 12 and up because they didn't want to have to deal with toddlers and such, which is fair enough. A lot of guests do have younger kids though, so they decided to have a venue nearby with a professional sitter if parents wanted to drop their kids off there. My wife has some injuries that make her slow to respond and understand what others are saying, and she needs help sometimes with her food. I'll cut it up into small pieces. This doesn't mean she's nothing, and she's a smart, capable woman. They had the rehearsal dinner. At the end, my sister-in-law pulled me aside, saying she had to discuss something with me. She said they told us about the additional venue they'll be having for their wedding. I said yes. Then she asked if my wife had any particular food preferences, and they would order extra food for her there. I was extremely confused and told her we already gave our meal choices, but she said my wife would be better suited at the second venue. I remember just sort of staring at her for a bit and asking if she was serious, that she expected my wife to be with the babysitter. Sister-in-law said it's not like that, and they're just looking out for my wife, and I don't have to feed her or anything, and can have fun at the wedding. My brother came over, and I told him I've literally never heard such crap, that they think my wife is a kid to be left with a sitter. Brother said it's for the best, and if I want, I can always go over and check on her. I told him if this is the way they're treating my wife, I have no desire to be a part of their crap show, and dropped out as best man. Well, all heck broke loose, and some people agreed that I was right, but my parents texted, called, everything, saying that they don't agree with this either, but it's their choice, and to get over my ego and still come. I didn't end up going. I did hear that they got one of the groomsmen to give a speech, and overall it was fine, but my brother sent me a text saying he expected better from me. I replied back saying I expected better from him. My sister-in-law sent a long text that I ruined their big day on purpose and made them look bad. Not the jerk. Sister-in-law ruined the day herself, nothing to do with you. Also, can't believe your parents' reaction either. My niece and her friend destroyed my car, and now I'm pressing charges. My niece and her friend, who are both 13, destroyed my husband's white Suburban. They broke his side mirrors, wrote on it with red nail polish, and slashed his tires. They tried to break the windows, but they didn't succeed, but now the windows have chips all over them. This was all caught on surveillance cameras. We called the police, showed them the videos, and pressed charges. Then I got a phone call from my mom saying my sister was upset because she can't afford to pay for all of the damages, like I'm supposed to feel bad and just drop the charges. The police told me that my niece was very disrespectful to them and laughing about the situation, and my sister never apologized once. I even saw her daughter walking the street with her friend when she should have been grounded. So why should I feel sorry for her if neither one of them feel bad for what she's done? The police asked my niece why she did what she did, and she said because she felt like it. They asked her, what did we ever do to her? And she said nothing, She just felt like destroying something. We live 2 houses from each other, and my niece stands outside throwing her hands up in the air like she's all gangsta, yelling, "That's why I'm free." She even attempted to come into my yard and attack me for calling the cops. The detectives told me that if she does attack me, that I have all rights to fight back to protect my property, and that's what I'll do if I have to. I'm terrified to let my son outside because this girl is so evil, she seems like the type that would hurt someone just for fun. My mom told me that we should drop the charges and let it go because my sister is a single mom with no job or husband. I said no way. We're going through with it, and she needs to get a job and parenting classes. I want nothing more than to see this 13-year-old pay for what she's done, even if it means locking her up in juvie to teach her a lesson. This is not the first time she's gotten into trouble. She was kicked out of school for fighting on a daily basis for no reason, and my sister did absolutely nothing to punish her for any of it. She just defends her. Not the jerk. Push it a bit further. Get videos of her harassing you, then get a restraining order so they have to move. Not the jerk. And wow, she needs some serious consequences. I'm glad you have security cameras. If you don't have any inside, I would recommend getting some. And make sure you have them on all sides outside your home. Don't drop the charges. Your niece needs to pay for what she's done. Your sister should be parenting her better, and your mom is enabling it. It needs to end one way or another. I filled my apartment with carnivorous plants to spite my vegan roommate. Okay, so I, 24 female, have been living with my roommate, 26 female, for 3 years. My roommate is a strict vegan and has been since she was 14. I, however, am not. This has never been a problem since I think people can do whatever they want with their own lives, and I've never tried to change her mind about being vegan. My roommate is a bit of a plant lady. She's been collecting and raising different types of plants for years, and she has amassed quite a collection. She even puts a little sticker label with the name that she's given them, which is adorable. She's truly one to die for her plants. I think that this is cool, but I've never really interacted with them besides watering them whenever she's out. It doesn't really get in the way of my life, so I don't care that she's so obsessed with them, and I'm glad that she has a hobby. Here's why the problem begins. 2 months ago, she visited a conference on animal products and came back with a more fiery spirit. She started going to events regularly, became a local activist, started preaching to people in the street, etc. Now, this isn't a problem. She's a human being who can believe whatever she wants, or at least it wasn't a problem until every conversation with her transformed into telling me why I should go vegan, why I'm evil for consuming animal products, and how I should be ashamed that I'm not vegan. This seemed weird since she hadn't acted like this prior to the conference. But it had gotten so common, I started waking up earlier to go to work so that I could eat my eggs in the parking lot of my job so I didn't have to hear her rant. Since we were close to no end of our lease, I had decided to pull a little stunt before we parted ways. I headed to an exotic plants place near where I live, and I got a bunch of different types of carnivorous plants. I'm talking every single species I could get my hands on. I also got pots and things to hang them on so that they looked pretty. My roommate wasn't there that day, so I had plenty of time to set the place up. I decided to do it in the kitchen since that's where most of her scolding would take place. I put them everywhere I could. Wherever she had a plant, I put one right beside it just to be extra petty. It looked like a greenhouse in there. Honestly, I was pretty proud of my work. I felt like Buddy the Elf when he renovated the store. When she got home, she started screaming at me, blowing up, saying that I'm horrible. She was livid. But because I bought them and I hadn't moved or touched anything of hers, she couldn't do anything. It's been like this for the last few weeks, and I've been caring for them daily, and even researching the best ways to keep them alive and purchasing products so they can thrive. Honestly, I've actually gotten pretty fond of the plants. I went as far as naming and labeling them. I'm moving out today, so I thought I would tell this story because it's kind of crazy. My friend told me she loves me 4 weeks before her marriage, plus update. I'm 35, male. My friend B, 35 female, just told me she loves me 4 weeks before her marriage, and I'm not sure what I'm supposed to do here. I want to know if I'm doing the right thing. To give some context, I lost my wife 2 years ago. I have a 5-year-old daughter. I have not dated in the last 2 years because I'm still dealing with the loss of my wife. I still love her a lot, and I don't think I'm ready to move on. I invested all of my time in my daughter, who looks exactly like her mother, and into my work to keep my sanity for the last 2 years. I've been friends with B since we were in elementary school. We lived in the same neighborhood growing up and were best friends. She's an awesome person, and we were inseparable growing up. The weirdest part was we had completely different personalities. She was very outgoing and always had a lot of friends. I'm a big introvert, and B, along with a few friends, was all I needed. B was a serial dater, and I don't remember any time since middle school since she was single. B and I never dated though. B and I also went to the same college. She never had a stable boyfriend, but just jumped from one relationship to another. I, on the other hand, did not date seriously until I was in my junior year. When I met my wife, she was a freshman and we hit it off instantly. We fell for each other and spent all of our time with each other. This strained my relationship with B, as I would generally hang out with my wife instead of her. That was the time B and I slowly started drifting apart. After college, I moved to a different town for my job, and B and I occasionally messaged each other, but nothing beyond that. B attended my wedding, and that was the last time I saw her. We kept in touch, but mostly by commenting on each other's pictures or keeping each other updated on significant life events. B did reach out to me when my wife passed, and we talked on a phone call. Last year, B and her fiancé moved to my city. I was still grieving, and both have been amazing support for me and my daughter. My daughter loves dancing, and B helped me enroll her in dancing and gymnastics classes and sometimes takes her to them. I also became good friends with her fiancé, who is indeed an incredibly good man. My daughter also loves Auntie B, and B sometimes helps me babysit. Last week, B came over to my house and asked if we could talk. Her tone sounded serious. She told me that over the last few months, she feels like she has started to develop feelings for me and is not sure anymore if she wants to go ahead with the wedding. She felt I also had started developing feelings for her. I told her that I'm not ready for any relationship before I can deal with my mental health, for which I go to therapy regularly. She tried to convince me that she loved me, we're soulmates, and she felt that we were meant to be together. However, I do not have the same feelings for her. I love her as a friend, but nothing beyond that. We were both emotional, but she said that she was glad we talked about this. Then she left after that. B called me that night and told me not to talk about our conversation to anyone. I thought a lot about it and decided that I would not tell her fiancé about B and my conversation from last week. I feel it's their relationship, and I don't have the right to ruin their moment if B decides to go ahead with the wedding. However, I feel guilty that her fiancé does not know about this and is going into a marriage where B might not actually be ready for it. Can you guys give suggestions on what I should do in this case? Am I wrong for not telling her fiancé about our conversation? Update. I finally called B after a few days and asked her to meet me for lunch. I talked to her and asked her if she was going ahead with her wedding. She broke down and told me she wasn't sure. I told her that she should at least talk to Jason regarding her feelings and not be dishonest with him. I also assured her that I would not say anything to Jay, but I just wanted her to be happy. She said she understood and left. That night, I put my daughter to sleep and I was watching TV. Around 9:30 p.m., I heard a loud knock on my door. It was Jason. I opened the door and he was in tears. He started yelling at me and asking me why I had to steal her, of all people. I tried to calm him down, but he just kept on shouting. I was trying to get him to sit down on the bench on our porch. I told him my daughter was sleeping upstairs, but he slowly was getting more and more physical. He bopped me in the face and I was able to push him away. I told him to get out of my house and he sat in his truck and drove away. I immediately called Bree. She was crying and she didn't sound well on the phone. She told Jason that she couldn't marry him because she had feelings for me. I was really scared for her after the altercation I'd had with Jason, and I told her to gather some clothes and get out of the house. She did that and came to my place. I just didn't feel she was safe with Jason. I consoled her for almost 2 hours and I was able to get her to get some sleep. The next morning, we had to call her parents to let them know what had happened. Bree kept a brave face, but I could see how much she was hurting. Her parents asked her to take a few days off and immediately come back home, and she did take a flight in the evening to go home. Over the next 2 weeks, the wedding was called off. Bree and I were talking every day, and she was just very exhausted. She talked to Jason a few times and kept on asking her to take more time to think. However, I think Bree just wanted to get out of it and decided to just break it off with Jason. Currently, Bree is staying with us for the last 2 weeks. She still has a job here and started going back to work last week. I've talked to Bree in detail about what happened. Bree told me that Jason and her were dating on and off for the last 4 years. Jason is not very career-oriented and Bree is very good at her job. She felt he was a nice and reliable person, but was unsure about him from the start. She felt that she was not getting any younger, and hence they decided to get married. When she heard about my wife passing, She just felt really bad and wanted to be around me to comfort me. When she got her big promotion, which meant she could work in a corporate office, she immediately chose my city and moved here. Jason also moved here and got a new job. She never had any romantic feelings for me back then. As she started hanging out with my daughter and I, she started feeling the bond we shared when we were growing up. Except I was the broken one and she was the one taking care of me. She said that she realized that she enjoyed her time with us more than with Jason. She realized she made a mistake with Jason and what she wanted was right in front of her. Hence, she slowly started thinking about me in that way and finally told me about it. She knew her relationship with Jason was over the moment she confessed to me. It's a crappy situation, but I'm glad that she realized that before getting married versus after. As for Jason, I feel bad for him. He's moving back to our hometown closer to his family. He's currently in their apartment and will move sometime next month. I know a lot of you would be curious if we were dating. We're not dating. I don't think I can date anyone right now, and neither should Bree. She's my friend, and I'm happy that she's staying with us and plans to be here until everything is sorted out. My daughter loves having Auntie Bree around too, so that's a bonus. Plus, it's really nice to see her slowly getting back to normal. Thanks again for helping me. Cheers. She could have kept your name out of it. Exactly. Her plan is working out beautifully, but OP can't see it. OP has a lot going on, and he's trying to be a good friend, but I agree that this woman is 100% manipulating him. She had no reason to confess her love for OP before her breakup. If she didn't love her fiancé, she should have ended the relationship and then asked OP out. But instead, she confessed she loved him right out of the gate. She had no reason to mention OP at all in her breakup. His name never should have come up, but she pulled him into her drama so he became invested in her safety. Friends don't do that to each other. She knew exactly what she was doing here, pulling him into the narrative like he is the other man or her one true love waiting to save her from Jason. Her ex literally assaulted him because she couldn't act like an adult and say, "This isn't working. There is no one else. I just feel like we've outgrown each other." This is how adults break up. They don't bring up being in love with a mutual friend who doesn't return their feelings. Now they're living together. She's going to love bomb this lonely widower, and in a year, she's going to be pregnant or pushing for marriage or both. And he's still going to be mourning his wife, feeling guilty for moving on when he wasn't ready, with someone he doesn't even have genuine feelings for, and slowly coming out of the fog that someone he considered to be a friend manipulated every aspect of his life since she moved back to town. I don't think it's a good idea to be playing happy families with a woman who has confessed to being in love with you, especially as you have no intention of starting a romantic relationship with her. I don't think it will end well for either of you. Bree made the right choice. She didn't try to power through the wedding and make things even more complicated than they already were. Glad you guys have each other's help getting through this. OP. Agreed. I think marriage is no joke, and although a very crappy situation, it's good it happened before they got married. You people suck. Actually, Bree sucks. OP is a moron. I'm pregnant, and my partner's parenting schedule makes me want to break up. My partner and I have been together for a little over a year. He has 2 kids who are 10 and 8 from a previous relationship. They've broken up for 7 years now. We also just found out that I'm 12 weeks pregnant. When we first started seeing each other, he told me that his kids have never met a significant other. I told him that I'm okay with that for now, but if we get into a serious relationship, that will need to change. After about 4 months of being together and talking about it several times, he took the kids to the fair and he introduced me as an old coworker, which was a lie. We dropped the kids off at Mom's place and Mom finds out that I had met them and called him immediately, yelling at him and telling him that he can hook up with whoever he wants, but he will not see the kids again if he brings them around me again. All of this was said in front of the kids. Since meeting them that one time, I have not been able to be around him when he's with them. He has since tried to call her, text her, talk to her in person, but she refuses and is only willing to communicate to him through his sister or through her eldest daughter, who's 18. Every week, on Mondays, he has to text the daughter to find out her schedule. She's a nurse, so whenever she isn't working, he picks up the kids, then drops them off around 8:30 p.m. when she gets home. We can't really make plans in advance because we don't know what her schedule for the week is like, and sometimes when we do, we have to cancel because she switched her schedule and told him last minute. We're now expecting a kid of our own, and I'm really concerned about this situation. Some weeks, picks them up 3 to 4 times during the week, coming home around 9 p.m. each night, and also has them on the weekends, and on those weekends, I don't see him at all. We currently live together, so on weeknights he takes them to the park or to his parents' house. On weekends, he usually stays with his parents when he has them. I was okay with this, but lately, since I have found out I'm pregnant, I'm getting very concerned. I'm not okay with him being gone that much when we have our baby, and then on some weekends we won't see him at all. He also drives there early in the morning on some days to take them to their school activities or leaves work early to pick them up from the bus stop. When the baby comes, I'm afraid he will barely be present, but I'm conflicted because he has a responsibility to his kids. I'm not sure what to do. I feel like I'm alone and will be raising our baby alone anyways, but I'm in a relationship. Should I stay in this relationship or leave? Am I wrong for thinking he's there too much and won't be here with our baby? Edit. Responding here since a lot are asking if he pays child support. He is, and I have seen the direct deposit going to her account. He's sending her $1,800 a month for both kids. He said he will talk to her on Friday when he drops the kids off, and if she isn't willing to talk, he's tried several times before, he will let her know that they will go to court. If she's okay with the kids coming over to my house during his time, it fixes the issue. But because she's a nurse, her schedule isn't always consistent. So she gives him her schedule every Monday, and on days she is working, he picks them up from the bus stop and keeps them until she gets home. If she works the weekend, he keeps them all day. I texted him this. Me. Also, what about her giving you her schedule on Mondays? And do you see yourself continuing to pick them up based on her schedule every week? Him. What can I do about it? How can I say no to her? My kids, your mom is working and I won't come to take care of you. He thinks that going to court, he may see his kids less if it's only every other weekend. And he would rather pick them up than have her get a babysitter for the kids when it's not his court-ordered days. This is a really understandable fear, and it just won't work with kids. Different families have different parenting arrangements that work for them, but it sounds like here, your and your kid's position in his life is whatever time is left over. It just won't work. It's also a red flag that apparently he didn't check with his kid's mom that he was going to introduce a partner to them, and the co-parenting relationship doesn't sound very healthy. Honestly, I wouldn't want to bring a kid into this either. Why are you having a baby with this man? You have no business bringing another kid into this mess. This man has already shown you he doesn't prioritize you, and I don't know why you're deluding yourself that he will prioritize your baby. I'm sure he told you that they had a great co-parenting relationship. Yeah, it's great when he does what his ex tells him to. It was extremely poor judgment to introduce you to the kids so early on. It was extremely poor judgment for him to not get a legal custody order because his ex can use the kids for leverage. I saw you say in another reply that he doesn't want to go to court because of what she might say to the kids. Well, that's called parental alienation, and judges don't like that. Personally, there's no way I'd stay in a situation like this. And hey, if you leave, you can have a similarly great co-parenting relationship and order him around. He clearly has no spine and no common sense. Well, who do you think is the jerk? OP or her boyfriend? Please let us know. Do you ever just stop and scratch your head at some of the people who these Redditors choose to procreate with? I, 35 male, asked my fiance, 28 female, for a paternity test. Let me start off by saying that I love and trust my fiance. We've been together for 2.5 years, and we've had our ups and downs like every relationship. One of the things that has caused some issues is she's the type that remains friends with a lot of people that most people wouldn't, her exes. She's been wonderful in listening to issues I have with anything and resolving them on her end, and has gone to the ends of the earth to make sure I'm comfortable. 1 week before our 2-year anniversary, the mother of one of her exes posted on Facebook about her husband, ex's father, passing away. She was close to his mom and dad, and his mother asked her to come to the funeral, and I had zero issues with it. When she went to the funeral a few days later, she said she went back to his mom's house for food and hung out for a while. She offered to the ex the usual, if there's anything you need, and he actually accepted and said he needed help moving his mother the next day. I expressed that I found that to be weird, and she agreed, but I trust her, so she went to help him. Maybe a week after that was our 2-year anniversary, and she broke up with me for unrelated issues. That night, she went to her grandma's house, which is just 2 blocks away from where she helped them move, and said that she was just walking around the town, and then I found out she had been texting her ex all day, every day, 300 plus text messages for that whole week. I also later found out that they were engaged at one point. We ended up resolving the issues that caused us to break up for the day or two, and we talked about the whole situation with the ex and how all of that was in my head, and worked everything out and got back together. Not long after that, we found out that she was pregnant, and the time of conception lines up almost perfectly to the night we broke up. and she was walking around town near her ex's house that she had been texting for a week. That thought just boiled in my mind for 2 months, and finally insecurities got the best of me, and I confronted her and told her I wanted a paternity test. I absolutely should have talked to her about it all when I first had those thoughts to try to work on this and resolve them before a paternity test was even mentioned, but I can't change the past now. I've tried and tried to explain my reasoning to her, and sometimes she says she understands it, but other times she's ready to just leave me. I love her so much, and I've tried explaining to her that I trust her, but that timing is too coincidental for my brain to not think those thoughts. I've seen way too many stories of happy couples where the man finds out the kid isn't his, and those stay floating around in my head. I tried explaining that it's a fear that only men could have since she obviously would never question if a kid was hers, so she could never fully understand it. I have some trust issues that I need to get resolved anyway and have agreed to seek therapy for any other issues I have, but I'm having trouble explaining things to her. How can I better explain how I'm feeling in this situation? Is there a way at all to save this? You don't trust her. Given the circumstances, that's understandable, but stop telling her you trust her when you're asking for a paternity test. It's not going to make your feelings any clearer for her. You can lay out why you want the test, given the timing and the behavior on her part, but if she has told you that nothing happened, you can't then tell her that you trust her because you don't. I do think you should get the test, but some therapy would do both of you the world of good. Either way, this relationship is doomed. If she didn't do anything with the ex, you keep telling her you trust her, but you don't. If she did do something with the ex, it's over anyway. She already has done something. 300 plus text messages to your ex is not nothing. That's not at all an unreasonable amount over a week. I used chat programs to talk to my friends online and worked out how many messages I sent per day, etc. I think it was about 70 per day, even though I barely talked at that time, just to give you an idea. People don't usually actually count. Do you believe she cheated on you? I mean, if the paternity test comes back that you're the father, do you still think that she hooked up with this guy? Is there infidelity in the past to stir up these feelings? Stop telling her and us that you trust her when you clearly don't. Like, your first sentence literally says that you trust her, and then the rest of your post is saying why you don't. So which is it? If you don't trust her, then grow a pair and be upfront about it. This is why the rest of the world is laughing at you Americans. How did your men become such doormats? Perhaps it was all the Funko Pops and anime they watched. I'm so glad to be from Poland, where our men are still strong and our women are still loving and respect us. Am I the jerk for telling my soon-to-be mother-in-law that I'm marrying her son and not her just after uninviting her to our wedding? I, 28 female, met my fiancé, 28 male, during college, and we have a great relationship. Last year we got engaged and we're planning the wedding for this fall. While he has an awesome dad and really sweet sisters, his mother is kind of a sore spot for him. She's separated from his dad, and from what I've heard and witnessed, the family don't get along much with her. If you met her, you'd understand why. She's super judgmental and rude and barely has a nice word to say about her own kids, let alone me. Unfortunately, my fiancé, being her only son and the youngest kid, is her blatant favorite. She really wants him to be a mama's boy, but he's not that way at all, and he does a great job of handling her and keeping his distance, which honestly he prefers. Upon news of our engagement, she was super excited, very uncharacteristically. We then all realized that she basically wanted to frame the whole day around her. Think, everyone should be praising me for birthing this boy. He couldn't even get married without me. From there, the craziness really ramped up. She was coming along with him to tux fittings, trying to plan out the music, even our first dance, and getting angry at me for daring to choose a dress she didn't like. The rest of his family and I were actually beginning to toy with the idea of uninviting her based on this behavior. And as wrong as it kind of innately feels, this is a pretty exceptional case, and honestly, her actions were starting to make us dread our own wedding. A further incident a few days later, where she told my son she wanted to walk me down the aisle so she could have a moment with her son at the altar, made me, my husband, and my future in-laws snap. We very recently arranged for her to come over to our home, where myself and my husband sat her down in the peace and quiet and gently explained to her that we no longer wanted her to attend the wedding. She got really angry and immediately flew off the handle at me and not her son, as though I was the one who had influenced the rest of the family to uninvite her. My frustration at her boiled over, and without shouting, I stood up and told her that I wanted her to stop yelling and that she had no right to speak to me as she was. When I realized she was about to blow up again, I cut her off with, In case you don't know, I'm the one marrying your son, not you." She didn't say anything else, just snatched up her bag and left. She hasn't spoken to me since, but she's trying to get my son to change his mind. Believe me when I say that he will not. She wants an apology from me, and while my husband and the rest of the family don't think I did anything wrong, I kind of wonder if my comment was unnecessary and whether it would have been a better idea to just stay calm and collected. I'm just so done with her, and I wanted to let her know exactly how I felt. I wouldn't care what she thinks. It seems everyone agrees she should not be at the wedding, so 100% not the jerk. P.S. You may want to hire security to keep her out. Not the jerk. You did things exactly correctly. If you didn't put your foot down now, you would have a lifetime of drama with her. This post should be saved and stickied as an example of how to properly deal with a terrible mother-in-law. And your fiancé deserves a high five for having your back. My girlfriend changed my last name to hers. Huge mistake. Girlfriend and I are heading to a wedding next month. It's a couple she knows that's getting married. I've met them once or twice. I don't know anyone else at this wedding. The other day, her friend called to check if he should also change my name on the guest plan, at which point she admitted to me that, as a joke, she had RSVP'd my last name as her last name, meaning it would be visible this way to other guests on the name tags on the table, and perhaps on other things. I was immediately upset with her and said that I didn't think it was funny, and she shouldn't have done it. She was indignant and upset, thought it was a funny joke, that I was overreacting, etc. Am I the jerk here? See, I'm aware that it could be funny if, your partner likes those jokes. We joke with each other about taking each other's names when we're married, her joking that I should take hers, etc. But for me, this feels like a big overstep. For one thing, it's childish. I would be embarrassed for her friends and other guests to presume that we're married, only to find out that it's a dumb joke, and also for her friends to think we're not taking their wedding seriously. But also, it feels like a power move. She knows that me taking her name would represent a victory for her, and so the joke feels less playful and more of a competitive jab at my expense. I have to put up with others believing I'm someone who took my wife's name and abandoned my own. No offense to anyone who chooses this, but my name is a part of my identity, and I dislike what being thought to have changed it puts across about me. She grudgingly accepts my point of view, but in general feels more upset at having been told off, and that her naughty, playful side is what people like about her, and that I'm at fault for trying to repress it and being uptight. I just feel it's crossing a boundary. Update. Lots of thoughts here. Feeling blessed for all the balanced and constructive feedback I'm getting. Just to clarify, as I think my word choice has rubbed some people the wrong way, I have absolutely no problem with my girlfriend keeping her name if we get married. Personally, giving up my own name goes against my values. Not because I'm a jerk, but simply because I'm a person who values their identity. My girlfriend knows this and still chose to make our joke public with her friends, whom I don't even know. Okay, have at it. You're the jerk. I have to put up with others believing I'm someone who took my wife's name and abandoned my own? Like women have been expected to do since forever? You're the jerk. Normally, I'd say that if someone tells you something they did was a joke in order to blow you off, you should tell them that it wasn't funny and it's not a free pass for their behavior. However, you've admitted this name thing is a running joke between the two of you. She took it a bit further than you'd expected, but your response is disproportionate at best and wildly childish at worst. She took an inside joke the two of you had and goofed with it, and you feel like it's crossing some major boundary? I think your comment about if you were to take her name, it would be a victory for her is pretty telling here. She's been thinking this stuff about your names was a lighthearted joke and maybe a way to have this conversation with you. You seem to have been acting like it was a joke covering a thread. The wedding is for people she knows that you're not close with, so your comment about being concerned the couple getting married will think you're not taking their wedding seriously rings pretty hollow and feels like a reaching attempt to justify your discomfort and anger. You need to take a good long look at why this is upsetting you so much, and I think you need to take a moment and consider your expectations for any future spouse you have. Would you be alright if they decided not to abandon their name and identity for yours? Or do you just expect that they would? This whole thing smacks of you being controlling. You're the jerk. Women have dealt with changing their names since time began, but you are offended because it's part of your identity? Yeah, it's always been part of a woman's identity too, but they've always had to change it, and you're upset by a joke where your girlfriend changed yours? Sorry, but this is grossly jerk of you, as well as petty and downright disrespectful to your girlfriend on a human being level. You need to grow up and start seeing women as humans, dude. Just what the heck? Your girlfriend is 100% right that you are oppressing her fun, playful side because your ego was hurt by a thing that all women have dealt with since the beginning of last names. Entitled Mom steals my headphones while I have an outburst thanks to my mental disease. So, some backstory. When I was 5 years old, I tripped over and fell off the stairs and damaged my brain. I got this condition called PBA, and it's a disease that makes a person get uncontrollable bursts of laughter and or crying, most of the times when you feel a sudden change in emotion, but it can also just happen at random. I mostly have crying outbursts. The condition wasn't really known until the Joker 2019 movie released, where Arthur Fleck has the condition. Most people start thinking I am faking it because I want to look cool. When I was younger, my parents always had to drive me to school, but now I'm older. I don't want to say my age, but I'm a teenager. I can control my outbursts better. I can't cycle to school though, because if I get an outburst on my bike, I can trip over and hurt myself and or others. Also, my school is pretty far away, and I wouldn't even like to cycle so long every day. So I always take the train, around a 20-minute train ride. To control my outbursts, I listen to music. It makes me feel relaxed, and most of the times, I don't get any outbursts. But sometimes, my phone's battery is low, and I can't let it die, because if something happens to me, I need to call my parents, and it's hard to ask someone for their phone while laughing or crying. Anyway, enough backstory. That was way longer than I thought. Let's start with the real story. This is what I remember. Me sits in train listening to music. Entitled Mom steps into train and sits behind me. Me listens to my music. I get taken away by the music, so I accidentally start singing louder and louder. People in the train start looking at me, and when I realize what I'm doing, I apologized and stopped singing. Entitled Mom: "Hey, you had a nice voice. What song were you singing?" I think she was trying to sound like a nice person. I don't know why she started so nice. Me looks up. "Oh, hi, thanks." The song was Feel It Still. It's my favorite song ever, and always have it on a 1-hour loop. "I'll look it up. Thanks." "No problem." A few minutes pass, nothing happens. Entitled Mom: "Hey, can I ask you something?" "Yeah, sure. Just make it quick. I need to get out soon." "Where did you get those headphones? My son would really like them." I bought them online. Insert website from my country." "Thanks again." "No problem. Again." I was thinking, such a nice lady. Oh boy, was I wrong. I arrive at my stop and get off the train. Go to school. Nothing important happened. School in a nutshell. I get back to the station after school and am waiting for my train when I notice the Entitled Mom. I found it strange because she was still sitting on the train when I got out, but now she was waiting at my stop. I didn't really care about it though and just waited for my train. However, my phone gave me a notification that its battery was low, so I unplugged my headphones and just hoped I didn't get an outburst. Entitled Mom noticed me and walks towards me. "Hello, do you remember me? The woman on the train earlier today." "Oh, hi. Yeah, I remember you." I'm pretty confused why she is even talking to me. "Where are your headphones?" I wasn't really trusting her. "None of your business." "Come on, show me them." "Why?" "I looked them up online, and they are really expensive, so I wanted to look at yours. I have been waiting all day here." Me. Now I realized she's basically a psycho. "If you want to look at them, search it up online again." After what felt like hours, finally my train arrived, and I didn't say a word to the lady and just left her and went into the train, searched my seat, and hoped this would be the end. But no, she follows me. "Just let me look at them, now!" "Stop harassing me, lady." My conscience said I was gonna get an outburst. "Please stop." "Just for a split second." "No!" My breaking point. I get a laughing burst this time. "Why are you laughing?" I can't stop laughing. People start looking at me. "Stop, idiot! Just give me the darn headphones." I actually can't stop, and I feel like I'm choking. It's something that happens often. I get the feeling I can't breathe because of the sudden outburst. "Leave me, please!" I start crying now. Some people walked to another cabin, which really made me angry, honestly, but also understandable, as they didn't know about my condition and probably thought I was crazy, like everyone else.
Are they in your bag? Answer me right now.
I have a mental disease. Please. Crying continues. Then the entitled mom grabs my bag and opens it. My books were lying all over the place. My laptop screen got cracked and my calculator broke after being launched against the wall. She finally finds my headphones. I press the alarm button for security to come. An officer rushes inside the cabin. He saw me crying and a woman with headphones in her hands and books all over the floor. I think he realized what happened. Officer.
What has happened here?
Me. Can't stop because I keep crying. Entitled mom.
This boy stole my bag. Luckily, I could hold on to my headphones.
Me. All I could do was shake no with my head. Officer.
I don't believe that stuff is yours, ma'am. It's all school books.
Me. I grabbed one of my books and threw them at the police agent. It said my name on the cover, a male name, and the officer instantly understood. He was looking confused though why I kept crying. Entitled mom tried to make a run for it. Officer tackles her, cuffs her around one of the poles in the train, making her unable to leave.
You can stop crying, young man. Can you tell me what happened?
Me. Still couldn't speak and started laughing again.
Are you okay?
Me. I made with my hands a sign that the officer should wait a bit, like this emoji, and grabbed my phone, called my dad, and he heard me laughing. I gave the officer my phone and my dad explained it to him. Officer.
I see. Well, kid, your dad is on his way to the next station. Why don't you just sit in the next cabin and try to calm down?
Entitled mom was screaming the whole time and calling me and the officer bad names. Minutes pass. I managed to calm down by just using my last 4% battery on my phone to listen to my song, knowing my dad was just waiting at the next stop. We finally arrive and my dad decided to press charges against the woman. Anyway, my dad told me she got taken away for stealing, lying to higher authorities, and harassment. I honestly didn't know why I wanted to share this. I get outbursts for just thinking about this. Also, the reason this costs me like 45 minutes to type. I guess I did it to let people think more about PBA or just any other mental disease. Thank you for reading this whole thing. If you made it to here, say turtle or turtle emoji, because I love turtles. Next we've got that time we had to call the cops. So, at the time I was working in a place that sells undergarments for both men and women. Men's was actually our best-selling department. The most important fact to know in this story is that boxers cost more than boxer briefs. Moving right along. You know how customers just love to pick things up and abandon them in the wrong place? Well, this time that ended up with a butterfly effect in which we needed to call the police and get security escorts to our cars at the end of the night due to an absolutely psychotic man not getting his way. We had both a wall lined with products for men as well as a couple bins in the men's section for excess stock for customers to take what they needed. One of these bins contained briefs. I'm sure you all know where this is going. A large red-headed man, like at least 6 feet tall and 250 pounds, muscular, walks up to coworker's register with a pack of boxers and a pack of socks to get our buy one get one 50% off promotion. This is Crazy Man. Coworker, who's a little old lady by the way, rings up his items and tells him his total. I'm on the register next to her and it was a busy weekend day, so I can hear all of this. Not that I'll need to be that close. Crazy Man starts flipping out. Crazy Man.
Why is it so expensive? I didn't pick anything up that expensive.
Coworker. Well, the socks cost this much, and the boxers cost this much. So with the sale, that's what the total comes to.
No, the boxers cost less than that. I read the sign. They definitely cost less.
Would you mind showing me where you picked these up, sir? Crazy Man brings her over to the bin. Coworker. I'm sorry, sir. It looks like another customer put these in the wrong spot, pointing to where the boxes are on the wall. They're actually this much. My manager was in the men's section and stopped what she was doing to listen in. Crazy Man.
Well, you had them in the wrong place, so you have to honor that price.
Sir, I don't have control of where other customers leave things. There are no other boxers in this bin. They cost this much. If it was an error on our part, I would honor it, but it isn't.
You need to honor the price.
No, sir. I can remove the item if you aren't interested.
Are you stupid? You need to do what I said.
Manager intervenes. Manager. Excuse me, sir. What seems to be the problem?
I found boxers here in this bin, and your employee won't honor the price.
I'm sorry, sir, but it looks like a customer put them there. We cannot give you the boxers for the price of the briefs.
I have never been in a store that treats customers like this. You need to give me them at that price because that's where I found them.
Sir, I do not have the authority to change the prices. At this point, literally the entire store has stopped and is staring at a distance at this enraged linebacker of a man screaming.
Yes, you do. You can change the price. Do it now.
I can't do that, sir.
I ought to punch you in your smart mouth.
Sir, I'm going to have to ask you to leave.
No! You're gonna give me my boxers.
He has his finger in her face.
At the lower price, not your rip-off price.
At this point, I left to call security, and apparently a couple of people had called police after the man threatened my manager. He's still screaming, but I can't tell what he's saying. The police department is only a few minutes down the street from the store, so by the time I was finished with security, the police were in the store and escorting the man who was still raging out. Security arrives maybe 5 minutes later and ended up escorting me and my manager to our cars after closing later, as people reported that he was threatening us all. In case you were wondering, this was all over $2.50. Next we've got, they want my money? Oops. Backstory. In WW2, my Uncle Haj was an engineer with the RAF. He rapidly climbed the ranks and ended up being the head engineer at a local base. After the war, he met his wife of 45 years, Eve. It was the typical post-war relationship, without children though due to complications. He quickly found a job at our village coal mine, known locally as The Pit. He went from engineer to foreman very quickly. The man had a knack for leadership, that's for sure. He and Eve, some of his RAF buddies, and his sister, my grandmother, often went to Spain for holidays, at least once a year before they all retired. After that, whenever they felt like it. The family. The unfortunate truth is that family isn't always nice. My grandmother was his only surviving direct family. Eve, on the other hand, had a large family. Very large. The trouble with large families is that often there's a few bad eggs. In this case, it was quicker to count the good ones. As Hodge would put it, the trouble with eggs is you can only tell the good ones by spinning them quick or dunking them in water. I don't fancy going to prison. More often than not, Eve's family would drop by and ask to borrow money. Not from Eve, she had none. Hodge had always been industrious, saving as much as he could and only really spending what he had to. Other than the holidays, of course. The incident. When I hit 18, he took me for my first beer. As my dad worked nights and had to sleep, he didn't drink, which was uncommon for him, as he was a regular at the working men's club we were in. Me. Haj, how come you're not drinking? I can't in good conscience test your money without your getting a sniff. Haj. Well, I suppose one can't hurt. Don't tell Nip. His name for my grandmother, Sheila. But I've just been diagnosed with diabetes type 2. Don't want to take any chances. Me. I'll keep your secret, but you need to tell her, just on the off chance. Haj. I'll tell her in good time, kiddo. Now get it down you before it goes flat. Neither of us took much notice to the people around us, so we didn't notice Eve's nephew in the corner. 5 years pass. I've seen him a few times, less than I'd like, because of work and him going overseas. The build-up. I visited my grandparents one day to find my grandmother sobbing, with Haj sat on the sofa. Haj. Put the kettle on, kid. I need to tell you something. I made a coffee for Gran and Granddad, hot chocolate for me, and green tea for Haj. Haj. Now listen up. I've not got long on this wretched planet, but you're not going to cry over me. I've been diagnosed with late-stage cancer and couldn't be happier to be leaving. To Gran. Sorry, Nip. I know you don't want to hear this, but it has to be said. You and yours will be looked after, of course, but you're not to tell Eve and her family. To everyone. I've made up a new will.
I want everyone to go to the reading. I've prepared a little gift for the family."
Shortly after this chat, we found out he passed away. We kept it from my grandmother that he had taken his own life and destroy her. Let it be said that Haj was always a man independent of others. He made his choice, so Gran wouldn't suffer seeing him deteriorate over time. The revenge. We went to the reading as a family like he asked. It's the only thing he ever asked of us. We had seen people we never met, never even heard of, so of course, there were some sullen scowls across the table. Lawyer.
Now that we're all here, please watch this video. Haj has a message for you all.
Haj from beyond.
Now then, I imagine this will be a shock to most of you, but I had cancer. If you're watching this, I want you to know that some of you made my last few years pleasant. Others, well, we'll get to you, to my side of the family. Not one of you came to me asking if I was all right or wanted anything doing. Instead, you asked if I wanted a hand with anything. For this, I thank you. I've never had anyone do anything for me unless they were my underlings in the RAF, and I didn't aim to start when I found out I was on my way out. You knew me better than most of my close family. I'll tell you if something's wrong. Good on you. Now then, let's get to the good bit. To Eve's family. You lot. Where do I begin? When I took our Nip's grandson out for his first pint, apparently the walls have ears, and one of you overheard me tell him I had diabetes. Shame you had to say. It's a shame it wasn't cancer. Guess you got your wish, eh? The rest of you. Whenever you visited me, you asked more often than not if you could borrow money. It's fine. I didn't mind lending it to you, but I did expect to get it back. So, here's how this is going to work. I've split my money and put it in trust with my oldest friend, the lawyer. Nobody is getting a thing till Eve pops her clogs, so don't bother asking. Eve can stay in the house I worked my butt off for until she either dies or has to go into care for any reason. The house is not to be sold until after she dies. Lazy as she is, she's still my wife. Once she dies, the house is to be sold at a reasonable price to the next owners, and the money from that is to be added to the total of my finances and split with the family. Eve is on her own, and she can do with it what she wants, other than add it to my total. Lawyer has been left instructions on this. Now here's how it'll be split. If you've borrowed money from me and paid it back, you'll get a fair share based on your age at the time of my passing. If you haven't repaid the money you borrowed, you'll still get a cut, minus what you owe me. For some of you, I hope you know I'm laughing at your squirming from beyond the grave. Deserves you right. Nip, my only living family. You'll get the lion's share of whatever is there, to be done with what you will. If you're not wanting to keep it, lawyer has been paid for any services you may require. Trust him, he's a good lad and saved my butt on more than one occasion in the war. Nip's sons, you will get a decent chunk to help with whatever you need, and your children will be provided for as well. To my mom, not once have I heard anything bad about you. You're getting a cut too. Like it or lump it. OP, you've been a great help the last couple of weeks. I called you unfairly at 3 a.m. to help me out of the bath after finally giving up getting myself out. Sorry you had to see that. You didn't have to help the next day with the decorating either. If you weren't already on your career path, you'd make a fine tradesman. You will receive a cut to be determined by the near future's events. Use it how you will. To the rest of you, I'm utterly disgusted to have known you. I mentioned earlier that Eve can live in the house till she passes or is put into residential care. If either of these happens, nobody is to live in the house. I don't want anyone I don't trust in there. Now quit your crying and go about your lives. Haj. As you can imagine, people kicked up a stink about this. We nodded to the lawyer and left. Shortly after the funeral, Eve went into a retirement home with her own money. Haj's was locked up as per his request. She had more than enough to keep her afloat for many more years. A couple of months down the line, we all got called back to the lawyer's office. A little bemused. Again, we're directed to watch a video. Haj. I'm not surprised that this video has been played. Some of you just didn't follow my orders. If you're watching this, it means that someone I don't trust was found to be living in my house. I don't give a hoot who it is. Lawyer has instructions of what to do next. But for the sake of his voice and sanity, whoever was found in the house against my wishes is now stricken from the will entirely. If the others feel they want to share their money with you, that's their loss. You'll not get a penny from me. As it turns out, my cousin, who bullied me in school, and her family, as in her on and off boyfriend, 2 kids, and a dog, had moved into the house after convincing Eve to move out because they needed the house. What they hadn't counted on is nosy neighbors. Hodge asked them to watch the house, and if they saw anyone new in there or any signs of moving, to report it to the lawyer for updates. In return, they'd get a cut of the money he had. They're good people. The lesson: don't mess with a war vet. My mom demanded to read my journal whenever she wanted. Hey guys, I remembered another story from our cult that involved entitlement. We were always taught that privacy was the devil's playground, so things like having your own room, locking, or even shutting a door, unless you were preserving modesty, was not allowed. In congruence with that thought process, we were not allowed to have diaries. We could only have journals. The difference was explained as, a diary is selfish and vain and encourages secret sins. A journal is meant to record how God is working in your life and edify other people who read it. It was a standing rule in our house that my mom could read our journals whenever she wanted and talk to whoever she wanted about what she found there. When I would ask her not to tell people what she read, she said what she always said: "If you don't want people to know what you did, don't do it." Then, 1 year later, I was volunteering at a summer camp in another state, and I was having a really hard time. I was one of only 5 people in the kitchen cooking for the entire ranch, and we were working from 6 a.m. to 9 p.m., and grudgingly allowed a 5-minute lunch break to inhale some food after everyone else had been served before we had to get back to work again. After 2 weeks, everything hurt and I was exhausted, but I couldn't show it because everyone had a mentality of being rough and tough and muscling your way through life. I stopped guarding my feelings in my journal. My mom wasn't there to read it, after all, so I wrote freely about how much I hated it there and how much I wished I could just go home. It was my one comfort, and those pages are still warped from how much I cried on them. Then one day, I was on the phone with my mom and she said, "Go get your journal and read to me what you've written so far." I panicked and asked if I had to, and she said, "Are you keeping secrets?" "No." "Then you have nothing to hide." So I read all the stuff I had carelessly written down. I knew if I didn't read exactly what I had written, she would check it later and I would be in trouble. It went well though. She said I had to stay there because it was where God had sent me and I had things to learn, but she didn't get mad or lecture me, and I thought it was all okay. The next week, a boy from my home church came up to me and said, "OP, what's wrong? Are you okay?" I was confused because time had passed and I had forgotten about that phone call. He said he read the newsletter one of the moms back home sent us, and it had a special note to encourage me. Everyone got this newsletter from her. It always had a Bible verse for each of us in it, but that week, mine had a note attached about seeking God's strength and how she and everyone else was praying for me during this difficult time. Everyone got this newsletter. Now, everyone knew I was unhappy and wanted to leave. Humiliated, I called my mom again and cried on the phone about how she could share that sensitive information I gave her. She acted shocked and said, "Well, you didn't say not to tell anyone." I said, "Did I really have to tell you that I didn't want just anyone to know that stuff? Did you really think I would be okay with everyone on the ranch knowing what I wrote in my journal?" "Well, how was I supposed to know the other mom would put it in the newsletter?" "That's just it though. You don't know what other people will say, so you are supposed to keep sensitive information to yourself, especially as my mother." "As your mother, it is my job to seek counsel for you so you can know God's will for your life. You don't get to decide where God's counsel will come from." I just sighed. I wasn't going to win this argument, and the damage was already done. I just said, "So if I ask you to keep something a secret, you will do it?" "If you say."
Mom, I need you to keep this between us.
Then yes, I will. I accepted that as the best I could get. The next week, the newsletter came out, and I read under my Bible verse,
OP, I sent you your own letter.
not again. This time, I got an extra letter apologizing to me for what had happened last time. I appreciated that she was trying to make it right, but in reality, it just felt like this whole thing was repeating itself all over again. Everyone read my encouraging note from last time, read that I was being sent my own letter this time, then watched me be handed my own letter. I just shut off all emotions and became a robot until I was transferred out of the kitchen. I stopped writing in my journal except to take notes in church. And no, my mom did not keep secrets between us after that. Edit. I recently had a heart-to-heart with my dad about all the things that happened to me growing up, and he was completely unaware of this. He said, "She was censoring you in the one place you were supposed to be free to express yourself without fear." He was angry. And yes, they've been divorced for about 2 years. Do you think that parents ever have a right to look in their kids' journals? Let me know in the comments below. I asked my wife to not tell her family about my large inheritance, but she did it anyway. I recently found out that I'll be inheriting some properties and a significant amount of money. I told my wife, but I made it clear that this is only between us and she's not to tell anyone, especially her big-mouthed sister. I don't want anyone to know about the inheritance. Invest almost all of the money, hire a property management company, and intend to keep our current lifestyle. Last night at dinner with her parents and siblings, her father congratulated me on my impending windfall, and my brother-in-law pulled me aside to ask me about the houses I'll be receiving. He and his wife, my wife's big-mouthed sister, have been saving for a house, but they haven't saved enough yet and their credit scores are low. I was very angry with my wife the entire night, but I kept it in check. On the drive home, I yelled at her. I admit it wasn't my finest hour, but she did the exact same thing that I told her not to. She argued that my secrecy demand was not right and that she had the right and duty to tell her family about our financial situation because it's also her financial situation. We argued for hours, so when I finally had enough, I told her she can't be trusted to keep our secrets and that I'm not telling her anything else about the inheritance from this moment on. I said that in the heat of the moment, but the more I think about it, the more it makes sense. She tells her sister everything, and whatever her sister knows, everyone knows. I don't want the entire city to know what's going on with our bank account. We're due to meet with our attorney and later a financial advisor next week, but I think I'll change that appointment to just me. Just to be clear, she's free to discuss anything with her family. I've only had 2 topics she's not allowed to talk about: my health and our finances. Not the jerk. If you're in the US, an inheritance that is kept entirely in your name only is your sole property, not marital assets. I highly recommend that you consult a good attorney, probably a divorce attorney, to determine how best to ensure that these assets remain solely yours. You could then use income from the inheritance assets to improve and benefit yours and your wife's lives without allowing her or her family to have any rights to your inheritance. By the way, this is the same advice I would give to my own spouse. Inheritance is a sole asset, not a marital one, but needs to be kept separate from all marital assets. Not the jerk. What happened the first time they saw you? They, specifically your brother-in-law, immediately starts dumping his financial woes on you. Even if he didn't flat out ask you, he was asking you to give him money/property. You are never going to hear the end of this. Your sister-in-law and her husband, if they don't get what they want, are going to tell everyone how cruel you are, how you personally are responsible for all of their financial woes since you have the ability to solve them. Talk to your financial advisor about a proxy, trust to own, manage the money and properties. Maybe something that neither of you can access the funds on without permission from the other. Because if your wife doesn't think it's fair to not tell her family her finances, it's a really short hop to her not thinking it's fair that they not get handouts. Am I the jerk because I refused to put my boyfriend on my life insurance and left my ex on it? I, 32 female, have an ex, 33 male, and we have 2 kids who are 10 and 9. My ex and I had a difficult start in life. I fell pregnant pretty quickly after we started dating. Our daughter was born with leukemia, and we spent the first few years of our relationship in the hospital. She's now in remission, thankfully. We also had another kid during this time. Also, our son is autistic. After being together for 6 years, we split up indefinitely. When our kids were 6 and 5, which was very hard for me and him. After healing for about a year and a half, I began dating my now boyfriend. Let's call him Jake, not his real name. Jake was lovely at first and kind, and he took it slow with me. After a year, I introduced him to my kids. At first, my daughter was not very happy with the situation, but eventually she grew to tolerate him. Jake even has a civil relationship with my ex. Eventually, Jake moved in with my kids and I, and he's been living with us for about 2 months now. When my daughter was born with leukemia, my ex and I had decided to both get separate life insurance just in case anything happened to us. When we originally got them, we decided that we would be each other's trustee and also would receive 30% of the insurance and the rest would go to our kids. After we had our son, we updated our life insurances with his name also on it. We have both still honored that. Our reasoning for this is that if one of us were to go while our kids were still young, then the other would be left as a single parent and may need some support and stability. I still feel very strongly about this. Now on to the issue. Jake was cleaning up my files in my office while I was at work and he came across my life insurance agreement. While I was at work, he had sent me a message saying, "We need to discuss something important when you get home." Obviously, I was freaking out and tried calling him, but he wouldn't answer me and said he was too angry to talk to me. I run my own business, so I took off early and drove home. Before I left, I messaged Jake to say I'm on my way home. When I arrived, I saw Jake on the sofa glaring at me when I got there. He threw the life insurance papers at me and demanded to explain myself. I picked them up and asked what the problem was. He began to scream at me and said, "Why is your ex on your insurance and I'm not?" I explained to him my reasons above, and he scoffed, and he said, "Well, you both make so much money now, you don't need to support one another." I was extremely angry at this, and I told him that it was not his business who I put on my life insurance. The money is mainly for my kids and my ex, and it will stay that way. Jake replied, "Well, I put so much work into this relationship, and I'm not going to get anything from it. No normal man would want a woman with 2 kids who has issues." I saw red. I kicked him out and told him we were done. My kids will always come first, and I will never let anyone get in the way of that. Jake packed his bags and left. While he was packing, he shouted at me that I never really got over my ex and we still love each other, blah blah blah. He knew it from the start, and I'm such a jerk for not putting him on my life insurance. So Reddit, I have to ask, am I the jerk? Not the jerk. And his, "I put so much into this relationship and get nothing out of it," when talking life insurance is alarming. I mean, we've seen enough forensic files to know what he meant. You dodged a bullet with this guy. The reality is, if you have primary custody after a divorce and you pass away, most courts would grant a surviving parent custody. You did the right thing by ensuring your kids are still taken care of if that unfortunate event happens, especially since one kid has health issues and the other has special needs. All the better that it sounds like you and your ex are able to co-parent. I can't possibly imagine that if something happened to you, Jake would have the kids' best interests at heart, and especially after his very telling reaction about the life insurance policy. My brother-in-law is the reason why my husband left me. I don't know what to do now. I, 38 female, met my brother-in-law, 38 male, at university. He asked me out during our first year, and I refused. He called me names and said that I'm shallow. My best friend told me that it was harmless comments from a drunk guy who got rejected. I never thought myself shallow. It was his demeanor and awkwardness that was off-putting to me. Anyway, he proved my friend right, and other than these comments, I've never felt uncomfortable during my uni years because he never bothered me again. Not even looked my way. Next time I met him was when my younger sister, who's 28, introduced him as her boyfriend. I didn't even recognize him at first because it was like 9 to 10 years since that time he talked to me. He was visibly annoyed that I didn't recognize him and called me a liar. The family was skeptical at first about him, but he seemed to treat my sister right and she seemed happy. He is very rich, taking her all over the world, and he seemed kind. They got married after a year of dating and they have 3 kids now. I met my now ex, 40 male, 5 years ago, and the only odd comment from my brother-in-law was that I was still as shallow and superficial as I was in uni. At the time, I took it as a joke, but in hindsight, when I found out the truth and started thinking back looking for red flags, this was probably a big one. He never showed any signs that he disliked my husband, and he was always decent enough, and his indifference to have a close friendship with my husband and I didn't seem odd because he was always a recluse. A year ago, my husband came home and accused me of cheating, and he had evidence. The guy contacted him, and he had pictures of me on his phone that he shouldn't have had. The guy told my husband that he didn't know at first that I was married, but as soon as he found out, he contacted my now ex. He even apologized to my husband. I've never met this guy in my life. Nothing I said or did made my husband believe me. He left me, and our divorce is pending. Then yesterday, that guy contacted me. He apologized for what he did and told me that he's friends with my brother-in-law. He sent me conversations, endless conversations my brother-in-law had about me for years. He has never forgotten that I, in his words, didn't even give him a chance and only judged him by his looks. He called me names in their chat. Both group chats with his friends, but mostly with this guy. They planned this attack, and my brother-in-law somehow got access to my photos. The reason this guy contacted me now is that he felt guilty because even when my marriage is over, my brother-in-law still was angry and hateful, especially when he heard that I was on a date last weekend. So the friend felt that he didn't help his friend, but ruined innocent people's lives. Not sure what to do. My brother-in-law has actually been happier and more sociable than usual since my divorce, and now I know why. Although first I thought he felt sorry and wanted to support me. His jokes about me ending up an old maid with cats as companions don't sound like jokes anymore. He meant them. I don't want to ruin my sister's life. She's very happy with her husband. I'm not sure either if I can with her husband. I'm not sure if I should tell my ex or not. I'm very heartbroken that he didn't believe me. I love him very much. He's the love of my life, but I'm not sure I can forgive him for not believing me. But he is a victim in this too, so maybe he needs to know for closure. I'm so terribly sad and hurt. I'm sorry this post got very long. It wouldn't shock me if this guy found your sister and is dating her just to remain close to you. Feels too coincidental that he somehow popped back up into your life and then got mad that you didn't remember him. Yes, you should tell your sister her husband is crazy. Yes, you should clear your name with your ex, even if you don't want to go back to him. You should also go to the police about what he did. You should tell them. This is beyond normal petty stuff. What will he do next if he's not stopped now? If you get married again, will he pull the same crap? Your sister deserves to know who she married, and your ex deserves to know he was conned. I wouldn't be able to forgive him for not believing me either, but he does deserve to know what happened. But be ready to have every backup for this because he will try to discredit you. Am I the jerk for choosing my wife instead of my niece? I, 25 male, have a niece who's 6. I'm her godfather. She's the only kid in the family for now, so she's quite spoiled. Her birthday party was last Saturday. My sister said that my niece wanted a Disney-themed birthday, Encanto, so my sister asked me to dress up as one of the characters. This is something that we usually do for my niece, since she likes it and it's fun. I said yes like 3 weeks ago, so please have that in mind. My wife, who's 25, is pregnant. She's 9 weeks along, but she's already having a lot of symptoms and she doesn't feel great. She has a lot of nausea. Some smells get her very sick, and she's just feeling tired and moody since she's not getting a lot of sleep either. The day before the party, she had been sick most of the night, so we didn't sleep well. The party was at 2 p.m. My wife actually told me to go to the party because she could stay alone. She was tired and feeling quite needy, but she was mostly fine. No nausea at the moment. She was able to eat something and was a bit more comfortable. But I felt terribly leaving her alone, so I decided to stay with her so we could cuddle and rest. I texted my sister to let her know that I'm not coming to the party at around 1:45 or so. Now, I know my sister. I know that she and our family would have called me and sent me texts to try to get me to go, so my wife and I turned our phones off so we could have a peaceful nap. Just as I thought, hours later, when I turned on my phone again, I had tons of calls and missed texts. I read the text, and it seems like at some point, my niece made a big tantrum because I wasn't there, because I promised her to go as one of the characters of the movie and play with her and the kids. She refused to do anything and listen to her parents, so long story short, they had to end the party early. My whole family is absolutely blaming me for ruining the party. My sister said I'm the jerk because I promised her daughter to be there dressed up and I didn't show up. I remind her that I said yes 3 weeks ago, so a lot of stuff can change in those 3 weeks. I told them what my wife was going through, and that's why I needed to stay with her. They called me off and said that she, my wife, is somehow trying to get me away from them. They said that she's an adult and doesn't need to be pampered all the time. She could be a couple of hours alone. I told them off for acting and talking like that about her and said that I can do whatever I want with my time. And I told my sister that if she would have raised her daughter better, then she wouldn't have made that scene. We had a big argument, which ended in insults. Now almost everyone is on their side and not mine. Am I really wrong here? I feel like they're not trying to understand the reason why I didn't go to the party. Like I'd rather have my wife feel great and go to the birthday party than this. They say that I'm acting selfish, but to me, they're the selfish ones. Please give me your opinions, and I'll answer any questions if there are any. My wife told me to go to the party if I wanted, but she preferred me to stay since she wanted cuddles. She wasn't feeling very sick physically at the moment, but she mostly wanted emotional support. Please bear with me if I don't explain myself well. We're Spanish. My family knows that my wife is pregnant, for those who were wondering. My niece is 6, not 16. I told them I wasn't going 15 minutes before because I was debating whether I should go or not. My wife said to go, but she wanted me to stay since she needed emotional support. She's needy and emotional right now. I know that turning off the phone is rude. Sorry, I'm just used to doing it since my family is too much sometimes and they can't take a no when I do something they don't like. So I wanted to prevent that, or at least postpone it. Also, this was my niece's birthday party, but her actual birthday was another day. That's why I didn't mention telling her happy birthday or something like that. I greeted her on her birthday day, last Wednesday. Your wife is pregnant, so she auto-wins. If she's feeling crappy, then you can automatically bail on any commitments. But you committed to this party, and the birthday girl was informed of your commitment, and you only gave 15 minutes notice, and you didn't explain why you wouldn't be reachable for several hours in your first message. You could have given much more advance notice, and you could have either responded to their texts or told them that you wouldn't be at your phone until later. And it doesn't sound like you apologized to your niece, which you should have, instead of basically telling her that it's okay that you pulled out 15 minutes before the event because you committed all the way back 3 weeks ago. You're the jerk. Telling them 15 minutes before the party begins suggests that they live close, so that means that you weren't going to be a long distance from your wife. And I'm assuming that there is somebody who could have stayed with her for an hour. So you go and visit your niece on her birthday, something you promised her. And it's not unreasonable for her to be upset when someone special to her didn't even show up to her birthday. You basically told her that she wasn't important to you. And you suck for using your wife as an excuse to not go to a party. You should have made it very clear that she insisted you go, but you were choosing not to. And if you couldn't go to the party, you could have FaceTimed. You could have talked to your niece rather than ignoring their calls. You have basically made your wife the villain when she wasn't, and you wanted to take a nap. Admit it. This wasn't about your wife, it was about what you wanted to do. Entitled neighbor doesn't want me to make any noise in my own home. Apparently, a new person moved in below me sometime in December. I, 23, female, was gone for most of December, so I had no idea until I got back home from celebrating the holidays. My first night back, I had a friend spending the night. I'll call her Clara. We weren't being too loud, but we were chatting and catching up. She went to her car to grab something, and an old man stopped to talk to her. I'll call him Richard. He asked if we were throwing a party. She said no. He then said he kept hearing loud banging sounds and that we needed to be more mindful of the people living below us. Okay. Clara got back and told me what happened and asked if I had spoken to Richard before. I told her I hadn't. Soon afterwards, he knocked on the door. So for some context, I'm neurodivergent. A man I don't know knocking repeatedly on my door late at night really freaked me out. I was also wearing pajamas. Because of this, Clara agreed to talk to him for me, which I was thankful for. He went off on her. He said he had been hearing banging sounds for weeks since he moved in. He keeps hearing weights dropping. I don't lift weights. He keeps hearing things drop at midnight and 2 a.m. He even said that he could hear whenever I flushed the toilet. Creepy. Also, I hadn't been home in weeks. At one point during the conversation, my cat tried to escape and I had to run over and grab him. This will be important later. Richard has left me alone for the past 2 weeks, though sometimes at night while I'm in bed, I would hear banging on the walls or floor. Unfortunately, he came back tonight. I decided I was going to tell him once and for all that I wasn't making noise. It didn't go well. I tried telling him that I'm not the one making noise. He said, "Yes, you are. I hear sound when I see you leave in the morning. Then I hear sound again when you come home. You drive this car, right?" Okay, he's now admitted to watching me, and he knows which car is mine. And I honestly don't know what he's hearing in the morning other than me walking and putting on my shoes. I'm not an early riser. I sleep as late as I can, then I wake up, get dressed, and leave. I'm not doing morning workouts. He also tried to catch me in a gotcha moment. He said, "Last time I was here, Your lady friend said you couldn't come to the door because you weren't dressed, but then you come grab your cat."
Yes, sir, she was correct. I was wearing pajamas, not clothing I wanted you to see me in. He kept going on about constant banging, saying he needed to be awake at 4 a.m. for dialysis and that he needed sleep. Then he finally left after saying he's not trying to be a jerk. I'm at a loss. I don't know what banging sounds he's talking about other than me walking and complaining about me flushing the toilet. Seriously? My cat is 18 pounds, not obese, just a massive frame, and he runs and jumps around when he gets zoomies, so I wonder if that's what he's hearing. Regardless, the apartment allows pets and Thunder is an ESA. I should be allowed to walk around in my own apartment and flush my toilet without worrying about upsetting someone. I will no longer answer the door if he shows up, but unfortunately, he's admitted to watching me, so he knows my schedule. If you don't want to put up with footsteps, animals, and toilet flushing, you should not move into a pet-friendly apartment complex. Update. I called the office and told them about the situation, and they told me they were going to call him and tell him to not interact with me and to make any complaints through them. This seemed to improve things at first, but he unfortunately decided to start banging on the ceiling whenever he felt I was being too loud. At first, it wasn't that bad. 1 or 2 smacks randomly, easy enough to ignore. Like in the first post, several smacks occurred when I was laying in bed. Last night, he escalated it. It was around 10 to 11 p.m. I was walking around my apartment a little. I had a bad cord, and I was trying to find a different cord to replace it. He started smacking again. I ignored it, but he kept doing it and was slowly getting more aggressive. It was starting to freak me out a bit. At this point, I wasn't even moving anymore. I was just sitting at my desk. Then he got upset and full-on force punched the ceiling. I think I counted 7 times in a row. It was bad enough to make the place shake. I was really scared at this point, so I did what my mom and most of Reddit told me to do. I called the police. Unfortunately, they weren't very helpful. Here's how the conversation went. Cop. Has he threatened you in any way? Me. No, not directly. He's been told to not knock on my door, and now he's being really aggressive with hitting the ceiling. Cop. I can't do anything if a crime hasn't been committed. Me. The ceiling hitting is really scaring me, and he's admitted to watching me leave and come back before. Cop. Things like this are part of apartment living. Him watching you was likely just him trying to figure out the source of the noise. I can talk to him if you want, but at that point, he will know you called the police, and that might make things worse off for you. I'm not saying you're making noise, but I've had to speak to my upstairs neighbors before too. You don't live below anyone, so it can be hard to understand. Me. I do live below someone too, and I hear noises sometimes. Cop. Then you know what it's like. No, they make sound, but it isn't bad, so I just ignore it. Like I said, I've had to speak to neighbors before too. Yeah, but your neighbors were probably actually making noise. At this point, I started to cry. Unfortunately, it just happens to me sometimes when I'm really stressed. I was just trying as hard as I could to keep it together to be able to speak. Cop. I know things like this can be frustrating. I'll talk to him if you want. Me. No, you just told me that would be a bad idea. Cop. I never said that. At this point, I just wanted the cop to go away. I told him to leave, but asked him to let the record show that I felt unsafe in my own home. This morning, I contacted the office again and had a very interesting conversation. They told me they had spoken to him and had indeed told him to make any complaints through them and not to talk to me. They also said that him watching me leave wasn't meant to make me feel threatened and that he never intended to follow me, but was an observation he brought up when I had tried to tell him I wasn't home when he was complaining about sound. I told the office that he had been complaining about sound from when I wasn't there, that I had been gone for at least half the month of December. Well, apparently he told them I had had a friend over and she had likely been making the noise when I was gone. Are you kidding me? Clara was there for a single night. He is legit making up stories in his own head now to make things make sense. The office is trying to be a middleman in this situation, which I guess I understand, but it is aggravating since I know I'm not making loud banging sounds. I told the office about my current theory that the loud banging sounds are the heating system coming on. It would make sense for the heat to be more likely to come on when I enter the building and let in cold air. Correlation does not equal causation. The good news is that he's not allowed to be banging on the ceilings like he's been doing. The office will be telling him to stop, and if he does it again, I will report him every single time. I will be keeping a log of everything. I'm very tired and shaken up, and the police department is not helpful. It's a very lonely feeling. I understand everyone trying to be impartial, but it just makes me feel so defeated, like nobody believes me.
Update. I wrote this all out yesterday, and in the time it took me to write it, he banged on the ceiling again, despite the landlord telling him that it's not allowed. I called them again, and they said they would do something. Not sure what though. Am I the jerk for telling my wife I don't want her sister at our house all the time? My wife, 38 female, and I, 39 male, have been married for 12 years, and we have 3 kids, who are 10 and 7-year-old twins. About 8 months ago, my wife's sister, Anne, who's 29, went through a pretty traumatic time. She found out she was pregnant with her longtime boyfriend of 6 years. It wasn't planned, but that didn't lessen the heartbreak when she lost the pregnancy at 10 weeks. To make things even worse, her boyfriend left her 2 months later. Anne lives about 15 minutes from us, so obviously we were there to support her with anything she needed. Neither my wife nor Anne are close to their parents at all, so we're pretty much the only family that Anne has. Anne was understandably heartbroken by what had happened and was struggling pretty hard. My wife was very diligent about making sure Anne didn't do anything stupid when her mental health was struggling, so she pretty much included her in everything we did so she could keep an eye on her. This included turning an extra room in our house into a bedroom for Anne. The room had previously been a gaming and playroom. For the past 6 months, Anne has been staying at our house 4 to 5 nights a week. She still has her own apartment, but she spends the vast majority of her time at our house and is included in pretty much all of our family plans. At first, I was understanding and knew my wife wanted to keep a close eye on Anne because she was struggling so bad. But having another adult in our house pretty much all the time has been wearing on me. Anne doesn't do much of anything to help around the house, and anytime there's a mention of chores or cleaning, she will scoot off back to her apartment with some excuse. Whenever I bring this up to my wife, she will make excuses for Anne and say that she is a guest, so we can't expect her to help around the house. Anne is also now very different around our kids. She used to be a very involved and fun aunt and would babysit for us so we could have date nights. But now she refuses to be left alone with them for even short periods of time because she says it's bad for her mental health after what happened. The other day I asked my wife if she can ask Anne to watch the kids on Valentine's Day so we can go out together, and she refused and said I should know that we can't ask that of her. It started a fight between us about Anne, and I expressed a lot of frustration with how Anne is always at our house and I don't like it. I made the mistake of saying, "It's been 6 months. How much longer are we going to do this?" That upset my wife and she called me a heartless jerk. Before anyone asks, yes, Anne is in therapy, and from what I can tell, she's doing much better emotionally and mentally. I've never said anything about this to her, but her boyfriend breaking up with her was a blessing. The guy was a loser, and I don't think he would have been a good father. I understand my wife feels responsible for Anne, but I also feel like she has a responsibility to keep me happy too. Not the jerk. You married your wife, not her sister. Just like babysitting is bad for Anne's mental health, constantly having her around is bad for your mental health too. If your wife wants to continue to look after Anne, she can do so at Anne's apartment. Not the jerk. Having an extra person living there should be something you both get a say on. Also, no, she doesn't have a responsibility to keep you happy. You are the only one responsible for that. She should listen to your requests about more alone time with your own family and not having Anne there though. Hire a babysitter for your Valentine's Day plans, and you know now that you can't depend on Anne for anything. Glad someone else caught that. 98% on board with OP, but that line at the end needed to be addressed. Agreed. I was on board until the last couple sentences, then I balked a bit. Definitely not the jerk for wanting boundaries about their so-called guest, but there's some things that need to be unpacked there for sure. Why? In a marriage, shouldn't we at least try to make our partner happy? We try to make our partner happy and make their life easier, but we are not responsible for their happiness. That needs to come from within. You need to be a whole person before you marry someone. My mom is demanding that I pay for her surgery. I, 35 female, lost my father very early in life when I was only 5 years old. A few months after his passing, my mother married a guy named John. John already had 2 teenage sons, and he didn't want to raise me because he never wanted to be a girl's father. My mother, like a good mother, abandoned me with my aunt and took my brother, who was 8 at this time, with her to live with her husband. John was a man with a lot of money, and he always spoiled my mother and brother, but he never bothered to get me even a Christmas present. My mother didn't do anything for me either. She came to visit me once a month and didn't even call me on Christmas or New Year. I always called, but many times she didn't answer. My aunt was a woman who couldn't have kids, Because of that, she and my uncle raised me as if I were their own daughter, not missing anything from me. Even without much money, I accumulated some money from my job I had during high school, and I earned a small amount from my aunt, which was enough for me to pay my way for college. At the time, I graduated in computer science and went to work in a good company, earning a great salary. But 8 years ago, I received a much better job offer from a large company, one well known for having great hardware products. In that time, I accumulated a lot of money and helped my uncle and aunt renovate their house, and I always sent them a nice amount, even if they told me to spend it on myself. I currently live alone in a great apartment with an estimated value in the millions. Recently, my mom called me on Instagram. I post a lot of pictures of trips and fancy places that I go. It's not too hard to find me. She asked if we could meet and talk and reevaluate our relationship to forget the past and move forward as mother and daughter. I have a soft heart, so I took it. I thought it would be an opportunity for us to talk and finally create the bond that I had always wanted. We made an appointment at a restaurant downtown and we met there. When we got there, she hugged me, kissed me on the cheek, and said she missed me. We talked about my life, and when I asked how hers was going, she started to talk about how bad she was. Apparently, she divorced John, and my brother didn't want to keep her as she is now poor. To make matters worse, she lives on a pension from John and has serious heart problems. After a while, she asked if I could pay for a surgery she needed. The surgery was quite expensive, quite a lot. I told her I wouldn't pay, as I wouldn't feel good doing that. She yelled at me in the middle of the restaurant, said I was a terrible daughter, and that I was letting this happen to her even though I could pay for her surgery. I left there, very embarrassed. When I told my aunt, she said it was my decision, but remarked that I do have plenty of money to pay and that it wouldn't affect me financially. I don't want to do this because she was never even an actual mom to me, but I need to ask, am I the jerk? Not the jerk. She abandoned you. You don't owe her a thing. I'm calling BS on the heart problems, by the way. The fact that she abandoned one of her kids demonstrates that she has no heart. You're better off without her. My wife told me that I'm replaceable. I, 30 male, have been married to my wife, who's 29, for 2 years, and we've known each other for 6 years. A few weeks ago, we had an argument, and during our disagreement, she told me that I'm replaceable. After our argument, she went out with her friends. I've been dealing with some health problems for a while, and this argument stressed me out, leaving me feeling nervous and unwell. I was alone in the house and decided to call the paramedics because I felt that something was really wrong. To sum it up, I suffered a heart attack. In the hospital, they tried to reach my wife, but she didn't respond, likely still upset from our argument. She called later, after coming home, when she found out that I wasn't there. After learning of my condition, she came to see me and stayed with me the entire time, constantly crying and holding my hands. After being sent home, she did everything so I could recover faster. However, despite her efforts, I couldn't stop thinking about how she had told me that I'm replaceable. I constantly think about it. I want to confront her about it, but I don't think I'm ready to. I'm trying to understand why context matters. In what way or situation is it acceptable to call your partner replaceable? The audacity to even say something like that is beyond me. I'll answer some things here. We don't have any kids. I have genetic health problems. External factors also contributed to my problems. I have higher salary than her, so I mostly pay the bills or buy things for our home. I mostly cook and clean. She does it, but it's mostly me. It's not 50-50, more like 60-40, and I don't know if she's cheating on me. Let's also address the elephant in the room. We had arguments about our house, some issues with it. After that, we also discussed our priorities, careers. At one point, discussion was replaced by her venting and saying things not even related to the original discussion. I had no issues with her ranting about things until she told me that I'm replaceable. That was the end of the conversation. I no longer wanted to talk to her. She finds my silence terrifying, but she didn't stay in the house for long after the argument. I don't know when she came home. I woke up in the hospital and she was there. She kept crying and holding my hand. She didn't speak much. She couldn't. My husband once said to me, "Wives are replaceable, mothers are not. Mom will always win." Within the year, our 9-year marriage collapsed. The context was finding out how deeply involved his mother was in our marriage, arguments, decisions, etc. We were not arguing, but having a discussion about how it wasn't right to basically have a third person in the marriage, but it was between the two of us. The way I found out was during a discussion about investments we had made. I got up from the table we were talking at and found his phone on the counter with Mom showing on the screen. He had called her and had her listen in to our discussion so he could take it to her after we were done. I disconnected the call without comment and she called back immediately. He vehemently disagreed that it wasn't right and made that statement to me, basically stating that it was he and his mom against me and I'd always lose, while she was still on the phone listening in. It was like a gut punch. It opened my eyes to a lot of little things that eventually led to filing for divorce. He was stunned. His mom called me immediately and said, "You can't do that." Well, yes I can, and I did. As a petty move, I served his mother the divorce papers at the same time so she could be involved in the divorce. $50 well spent in my opinion. She came to our hearing and was so vocal about what she thought was right or wrong that the judge ordered her out of the courtroom. He's her full-time problem now. They've been living together since the separation and she's miserable about it. They deserve each other. I think you need space, my friend, to think this all through. What she said can't be put back into the bottle. Even if said in anger, even if she didn't mean it, you'll never 100% know. Clearly, your health would be better without this level of stress. I don't know what is causing your heart problems, whether it's fitness, diet, or just a heart condition. But clearly, you need time to rest, mentally and physically, and build up some cardiac resilience. I strongly suggest listening to your doctors and potentially living separately from your wife for a month or two. I don't really care if your marriage doesn't survive, as long as you do. Not the jerk. Look after yourself. You can't live if your heart gives out. I was hurt when my husband completely left me out of his bio for an article that was published about him. I, 41 female, met my husband, who's 42 male, when we were 17 and 18 years old. He was in a band back then with one of his best male friends, which is how we met. I was crazy about him when we were teens, but after graduating high school, I moved away for college and we lost touch. Fast forward 20 years, I moved my parents in with me in 2012, and he was raising 2 sons on his own. Their biological mother had been gone most of their lives. We reconnected over Facebook and the timing was right. We had both been married, divorced, but were at the moment single. I admire my husband for his fortitude. He's an honorable man who did what many men wouldn't have stuck around to do. He struggled financially for many years as a single parent, but he got by. He had also all but given up on his music several years prior and had only recently gotten back into it. He's a beautiful and gifted singer and guitarist. It got me when I was a teenager and still tugs at my heart now. But he gave it up to go to vocational school to support his boys. He had sold everything except an acoustic guitar his dad gave him and had almost no gear, so he was pretty much starting from scratch when he started playing again. By the time we got together again, he had gotten some basic equipment. His studio was the corner of his living room, with sometimes the bedroom, with nothing but his acoustic guitar and phone to record videos. While it was a hobby more rather than a career, music is something he has always been passionate about and he loves. Music has also always been important to me. It's a passion we share and it brings us closer. We were still dating when he and his dad started an acoustic duo. At first, just the two of them. Within several months, they added a drummer and then a bassist. I was very supportive of all of this. I sat on full-time in the evenings and listened to them rehearse. I would drive 8 hours to come see them play. Oh yeah, I lived out of state at first, and would record their sets so that they could post the videos on their Facebook page. The first few sets of band pictures they used to promote were photos I had taken. He still didn't have a lot of equipment when we moved in together. With my parents and me here now, I take care of things at home and the boys while he goes to rehearsal and gigs. When we moved in together, I moved us to a house that has a large building across the driveway that he made his studio, a space he had always wanted. I took over almost all of the expenses, which left him with his entire pay to cover a couple of his bills, but the rest he was free to use on music. It makes me happy to see him happy. Over the past couple of years, their notoriety has increased across the city. Since we've been together, they went from just him and his dad playing at a corner table in a restaurant to a 4-piece band with all the bells and whistles from stage lighting to fog machines. Most of this took place after we moved in together because he was able to afford better equipment and now had a real space to rehearse. My parents and I help take care of anything the boys need, and he doesn't have to worry about leaving them home alone when he has gigs, especially out of town. The band is getting noticed and playing in other cities. In the past 8 months, he joined a second band, so he now plays in both. This band has now also built a solid reputation that continues to grow. Now to the point. A local music association just gave my husband recognition for his achievements in the local music scene. An article was posted, and most of it was his bio story he wrote about himself. He talks about starting to play at 12, mentions the people he's played with before and all those he plays with now. Name drops several other past bands and people. He mentions our boys and having gone on hiatus from music for a while to provide for them. He notes a friend that got him back into music, his dad approaching him to start the acoustic duo, names the other bandmates in both bands. He abruptly ends by name-dropping the two bands again and, paraphrasing, says, "So, that's it. That brings us to today. Keep a lookout for us. See you at the next show." He gave credit to a lot of people, but after all we've been through so far on this journey, to get to the end on that long bio and not have a single word or hint about me, I was stunned and very hurt. Wouldn't have known he even had a significant other. Everything I've done to help, the expenses I've taken over so he could pursue this passion, the stress I put on myself with now 4 jobs to take care of this family, the role I've happily accepted with 2 stepsons, he doesn't know any of their teachers or even their doctors. That's all me. The nights I've gone to gigs when I was exhausted because I knew it was important to him. Taking their videos and pictures for promos, taking the boys to his gigs, getting up in the middle of the night to pick him up with all of his gear because of a flat tire. The furniture, lights, pads, guitar racks, even a mini fridge for drinks that I got to help set up his studio. I then smile when he's excited about the 7th bass guitar he just got and explains the tiny thing it does differently than the other 6 he already has hanging on the racks. I could understand if he had done all of this on his own and then we got together, but I've been here from the start. I don't care about recognition from others. What bothers me is he doesn't consider me an integral part of all of this. Here this whole time, I thought we were in on it together. And even if I hadn't done all of that, it's common sense to include a spouse somewhere in a bio. I wouldn't be where I am today without my beautiful wife. Would have sufficed. When I tried to talk to him about it, his response was, "I didn't mention anybody really." Like his late mother who bought his first guitar. Okay, so I'm not just anybody. I'm his wife who has supported him emotionally, financially, and logistically, especially with the kids through all of this. On top of that, to use his mother who's passed, I'm his wife, not his mother. It's not my intention to downplay the importance of it, but there is a difference between the level of commitment and support of giving a 12-year-old kid a beginner guitar versus everything I've done for him. Plus, not crediting his mom doesn't justify disregarding his wife as well. He said I was being dramatic and that it wouldn't have made sense for him to bring me up in a piece about his music. Yet he mentioned a lot of people, including his sons, and I've been literally and figuratively at the foot of the stage through it all. I think it's a big problem that you've taken on 4 jobs to take care of this family. He's not acknowledging your help, and it sounds like you are overextending yourself so that he can live out his dreams. You need to step back and make sure bills and finances and childcare are split more equitably. You should also have the time to pursue your own hobbies and interests. Be fair to yourself. He doesn't want people to know how much his wife sacrificed, and does sacrifice still, for him. He wants to look good to the public. I would be angry and hurt too. Exactly. He wants everyone to think that he did all of this on his own, that he's some super dude that doesn't let anyone or anything hold him back, except he didn't do it all on his own. In my opinion, the guy has a huge ego that doesn't want to share his success with anyone but himself. Sucks to be OP, to be honest. It sounds like you and your family need to pull back on your support. It's not appreciated or needed. It sounds like he's taken your sacrifices for granted. I'm sorry. That's really messed up. You have every right in the world to be mad. I get a sense that he didn't mention you so that other women may think he's single, keeping his options open. I would agree that pulling back on making his life so easy is the next step here. He can see exactly what he messed up here. Don't let him water this down. It's a huge deal, and he should be wanting to make it up to you ASAP. I was invited to my twin sister surprise party as a guest, and I don't know if I want to go. I, 17 female, have an identical twin sister. We're quite different when it comes to our personalities. She's more extroverted, always had many friends from various groups, while I'm more introverted, and I've always been more of a geek, and I prefer a smaller, closer circle of friends. We don't share many common friends, except for a few from our childhood at a different school. Our birthday is next Saturday, and yesterday, one of my sister's friends sent me a message inviting me to my sister's surprise party. I was confused because obviously we share the same birthday, so I asked if I could also celebrate mine there, inviting a few of my friends as well. She replied that the party would be held in the party hall of her building, and it wasn't possible to invite everyone, but I could bring 2 of my friends. She later messaged saying they would only buy 1 cake, but I could bring my own and have a separate birthday song after my sister's. Today, she added me to the party's WhatsApp group, which already includes 47 people, myself included. Even though we're very different, my sister and I have a great relationship and have always dreamed of celebrating our 18th birthday together. We had plans to go out with our childhood friends to a bar in the evening and to drink a lot. Today, I found out that our childhood friends are also in the party group, and I messaged them about our plans. They said they liked the idea of a surprise party, thought my sister would love it, and are trying to get me excited about it too. The issue is, I'm not keen on the party idea. It's going to be crowded, and I won't be able to spend time with my sister the way I want it. I might come off as spoiled, but I feel like an afterthought, and this is not how I want to spend my birthday. I'd prefer to spend it with my own group of friends, but I also know that my sister would be very disappointed if I didn't attend the party. I don't want to spoil the surprise for her, so I don't want to tell her what's happening. I'm at a loss about what to do. I spoke to my parents, but their advice did not help. I just don't know what to do. This is BS. Don't go and enjoy the time with your friends instead. Get screenshots of the messages for when your sister is upset that you didn't go. Her friends will most likely lie about it. I'm surprised you and your sister haven't spoken already about birthday plans. Is there a reason? OP. We've already made plans to go to a bar with our childhood friends. My sister believes she's spending the afternoon with her friend who's planning the party, then coming home to prepare for the bar. However, her friend plans to accidentally leave the birthday gift behind, so they'll need to swing by her place for her to give it to my sister, and then, surprise. What about all the other people waiting at the bar? Or are they all in on it and the bar is a lie entirely? OP. The friends planning the party are not my friends. They invited our childhood friends since they know that they're friends with my sister. Update. So Saturday, I was feeling anxious about the birthday plans and I was crying in the kitchen. My mom noticed and came over to comfort me. When I told her I was upset about the party, she decided to tell me the truth. The party was actually a surprise for me as well, and all of my friends were invited too. Yesterday, I called Melissa, the friend organizing the party, and she confirmed what my mom had said. Melissa explained that she wanted to spend my sister's birthday with her, especially since she might be moving away for college soon. She knew we had plans to celebrate our birthday with each other and our childhood friends, who are our only mutual friends. So she had the idea to arrange a surprise party with everyone, including my friends. She told this idea to our childhood friends, my friends, and our parents, and they all approved. Melissa had already figured out how to get my sister to the party, but she struggled to find a way to bring me there without spoiling the surprise, since we're not friends. Her solution was to make it seem like the party was only for my sister, limiting me to bringing just 2 friends who would actually be in on the plan. It all made sense now, especially why our childhood friends were hyping me up to go to the party. She told me she didn't think things through and didn't realize how hurt I would be by the situation, and she apologized for it. She thought it would be a nice surprise, and she didn't want me to suspect the party was for me too. I must admit, it wasn't how I envisioned spending my 18th birthday, but I've warmed up to the idea. I'm excited now. I found out that my fiancé has been untruthful. Do I cancel everything? My fiancé and I are meant to be married this April. He had just moved in with me around September of last year. We've been dating for 5 years. Of course, there were a few quarrels as we tried to get used to living with each other, but ultimately nothing serious. But then, this past 3 weeks, things have really taken a turn. It first started during New Year's Eve. He went out with his friends for drinks. I'm not much of a drinker, and I was tired from all the socializing during Christmas, so I decided to stay back. I told him that it would be nice if he could be home before midnight, but I understand if he can't. He came back around 2 a.m. I could tell he was a little drunk, but not the drunkest he's ever been. He then told me one of his New Year's resolutions is to have 1 day a week to just be our day, and we chose Saturday. Fast forward to the next week, and the first Saturday, I was all excited to have our day and ordered some takeout for us to have a chill day. He got up and went to his computer and started playing a game with his friend instead. When I confronted him about it, he said, "Maybe Sunday." I was really hurt. I stopped talking and went to be by myself while he continued gaming. From here, I just stopped. I stopped cooking, stopped doing any housework for 4 days. I just focused on myself and went to work as usual. This is the first time in 5 years I've done this. Usually I would forgive him a little too quickly. I broke the silence because I noticed that he has only been eating toast and he hasn't showered since I stopped talking to him. We made up, talked it through, and all is okay again. Fast forward to 1.5 weeks from that initial argument. We were playing board games together when he received a call that he quickly declined. He said it's an unknown number, so it could just be a scam call. I told him it would be the energy guy. We were waiting for an energy rating for the house, so I called the number back and it was some guy asking to speak to my fiance. I asked him who he was, and he said he's been showing my fiance some flats around town. My heart sank. I confronted him about it, and he told me that he's been lying to me the past 2 weeks and has been house viewing. He said he feels less attracted to me because of the stress eating that I've been doing. Well, I've been doing all of the wedding planning by myself. I have a stressful job, social care, so when I get back from work, I'm mentally drained, but even then, I would cook for him, etc. I'm just surprised that this person, who couldn't plan a date to save his life, could plan all of this behind my back while I'm at work. Since then, he has spoken to his GP and got back on antidepressants and suggested we do couples counseling. I wish I could add a lot more, but I'm conscious that it's very long already. I'm at the point where I just want to cancel everything, but I'm afraid that I'm jumping the gun too soon. Edit. I've canceled the wedding and asked him to pay back all of the deposits to me, which he did. I also asked him to continue his plans to move out, but he's now hesitant and said he still wants to make things work. But he admitted that he doesn't love me anymore. Yeah, that makes sense. Give me a break. Edit 2. Let me answer some questions. Yes, I did talk to him before Saturday about what are we gonna do? Do you want to go out or stay in? So it's not just a drunk promise, and he wasn't completely blindsided. I understand that giving him the silent treatment was toxic and unacceptable, and it didn't help. But please know that this was the first time I did that. I was so extremely tired, mentally and emotionally exhausted, because I have to say and tell and nag him all the time, and he's clearly not listening, so I figured, why waste my breath? There was a time in the relationship where every time we had an argument, he would call his mom, and she would call me and tell me to be gentle with him. He's only paying 25% of the wedding. My dad and I are paying the majority of it. It's now the next morning, and I'm happy to announce that I am now a free woman again. I've slept on it, and I didn't regret canceling the wedding. Of course, there is that little feeling of sadness in me. I'm going to allow myself some time to grieve, and hopefully, it's onwards and upwards from here. Edit 3. He's now aware of this post. Last night, I tried giving it one last shot at this, but he said he doesn't love me anymore and was hoping that he will learn to love me again by April. That's what made me finally make my decision. He said he's trying to change. Also, it's not entirely his fault because I can choose what I eat too. Am I the jerk for kicking my mom and stepdad out of my house? I, 28 female, recently gave birth to my son. My son has blonde hair. So did I up until I was like 4, and my hair has only gotten darker over time. My husband has black hair. I have very dark brown hair now, and our whole families have either one of these colors or similar. Our son having blonde hair is not something anyone else has reacted negatively towards. My mom and my stepdad came over as they usually do once a week. Me and my stepdad don't have a good relationship. Neither is it bad. But every time they have visited, he's made comments about my son's hair. He jokes about getting one of those DNA kits for my husband and son, jokes about how my husband maybe should check my phone, asks if I have any hot blonde coworkers I have spent a lot of time with, and more stuff in that kind of off way. My husband and I always tell him to stop. We've explained that it's basic genetics since I had blonde hair. We've always been very polite in trying to get him to stop, but neither of us even finds it remotely funny. My mom doesn't say anything. I've talked with her and asked her to make him stop, but she says that she'd rather not interfere with our relationship with him and that me and my husband should talk more with him. Now, the last time they were over, my husband went to the kitchen to grab some snacks, and my stepdad followed. After a minute, I just heard my husband slam a cabinet and very loudly tell my stepdad to shut up, or else he could get out immediately. Both me and my mom went to see what had happened. My husband explained that my stepdad was going on about me cheating on my husband. My husband lost it this time. I don't know, but I also did just that. I told them to leave and to not come back until he apologizes. They tried to talk and explain how my stepdad was just joking, but I was stern and wanted them to leave. They eventually did. I texted my mom later that night trying to explain myself as I felt bad for kicking her out too. She answered back with how my stepdad has been feeling really down, that he was disappointed in how I let my husband treat him, and that they both expected some apologies and a lot of work to make up for this. I really feel bad, and I feel like a jerk. I know I hurt my mom and my stepdad, and that I may have taken a harsh decision in this. My sister told me that she understands my frustration, but it was an unnecessary thing for me to react like that. My husband is on my side and has told me that he is glad they won't come over. If I was a jerk for reacting like this, I will apologize. Edit. Thanks for helping me see that these are not really jokes and that my mother was wrong in defending him all these times. I was also wrong in letting this continue for so long and for making our home an uncomfortable place for me and my husband by not putting my foot down sooner. Edit 2. Both my husband and I felt bad immediately afterwards. Both of us thought we were too harsh. Both of us wanted to explain ourselves to my mom. However, my husband stopped feeling bad after my mom's answer, whereas I was still confused and frustrated by it all. I did not apologize for anything. I've seen many people thinking this. It is not what happened. I'm sorry for not being more clear about this. Am I the jerk for not mentioning I live below my means? For context, I, 30 female, have lived in the same basement suite since I was 19 with my dog. I rented it from this lovely older couple and became very close with them. They treated me like family and we helped each other a lot over the years. They kept my rent super cheap, would constantly spoil my dog and take him for walks while I was at work, and always gave me leftovers or invited me to dinner. I maintained the house and gardens and helped them with everything elderly people might struggle with. When they passed in a bus accident, I was very shocked to find out that they left me everything: their house, their cars, and their sizable savings. Fast forward to now. I'm getting married and my soon-to-be husband is aware of my circumstances, but I never told anyone else. I guess I didn't know how to deal with it, so I just ignored the entire situation and went on with life as I always had. My fiance signed a prenup. It was his idea, and we started planning our wedding. We've been living in my basement suite with the upstairs rented out, but we recently moved into the upstairs so we could grow our family, aka get another dog. Well, when we sent out the wedding invitations, both our families freaked out. They couldn't understand how we could afford to get married in the place we chose. My fiance just said we can afford it. We aren't hurting for money by any means, and he isn't sure why they think we are. His sister's response was, "You're a landscaper and a teacher. You should be poor," in a rather demeaning tone. Our families are livid that we never mentioned my inheritance and are accusing us of living frugally to hide it. We never lied or tried to hide it. We just never said anything and never changed our simple lifestyle. We just kept living the way we always had, as we were perfectly happy doing so. They are literally so mad that they declined the wedding invitation. The only people who will talk to us is his brother, who was like, "Wait, do you guys own your house? Can I move into the basement?" And my dad, who just wants to know when he gets a grandchild. Am I the jerk for not telling anyone about my inheritance? Like, is this actually such a huge offense? Because we don't get it. Not the jerk. That they're not happy for you upon learning this and are filled with jealousy and anger instead, it just proves that you were right about being low-key with it. No one's coming? Pack your bags. This calls for a destination wedding. Bring your father and brother-in-law along. Don't let your wedding be about their drama. It's about you two. Congratulations. P.S. I hope the prenup was overseen each by your own lawyers, his and yours, not just one for you both. Well, who do you think is the jerk? OP or her in-laws? Please let us know. Rule number 1 of having lots of money: never tell anyone you have lots of money. My wife keeps throwing out good food, so I took it out of the trash can and cooked dinner with it. For context, my sister and I grew up relatively poor. When I was 6, our mom took a promotion and moved 3 hours away. We found out in our adult life she had been hoarding her money and giving our alcoholic father a small allowance to raise us. With his addiction problems, it left us minimal money for essentials. By the time I was 16, we were technically on our own and we were ransacking through dumpsters to feed ourselves. I'm now in my late 30s. I have a successful career and I live quite comfortably. My sister is also well off now. My wife and I have a great relationship. I've worked to stop some of my old habits from my upbringing. Some of my penny-pinching techniques, my wife graciously ignores and lets me save our money where I can. However, there's one issue we always can't find a compromise on. I can't handle when our food is thrown out. Our daughter, who's 12, wanted chickens last year. That ended up being a good idea, since our table scraps would go to them instead of being wasted for the trash. For the record, I hate when my wife shops at Costco. She buys too much stuff for our family, which creates a lot of waste. I've asked her to at least donate what we don't eat, or give it to me, and I can drop it off at a homeless shelter near my house. She promised to just buy less quantity, but that didn't last because she didn't like grocery shopping more than once a week. Last week I came home and I found a sealed pack of lettuce, 1 whole cucumber, and an entire loaf of bread and potatoes in the trash outside. The lettuce was expired, but it looked fine. The bread was also expired, but it had no mold. The potatoes had eyes, but weren't green or rotten yet. so I went inside and started cooking on dinner. I grilled chicken, which was the only item not from the trash. I made a salad and I added the cucumber, used the bread to make croutons, and finally I made mashed potatoes. We all sat down to eat. My wife mentioned how great the food was. I told her it was the food that she had thrown out earlier that day. She was completely mortified and grossed out. I told her I washed everything off before cooking it, but she said that it didn't matter. My point was, if the food was good enough for us to eat, it should not have been thrown out. At bare minimum, she could have given it to our daughter to take to the chickens. She argued back that I should have taken it from the trash and given it to the chickens, not our table. She was irritated with me, fearing we all would have food poisoning or something, but none of us got sick from the food. She said regardless, it was wrong for me to prove a point in that manner, and horrible of me to serve the family food from the trash. I don't really see what I did wrong. There are people starving in this world, and for us to just throw out perfectly fine food, it just doesn't sit right with me. Am I the jerk? You're the jerk. You need to find ways for you to heal from your childhood issues without digging food out of the trash. Just because you were okay this time doesn't mean that wasn't a bad decision, especially feeding it to your family without their approval. Everyone sucks here, because it's clear from throwing out unused, unopened items that the wife is buying more than they need and throwing it out instead of donating it. Food waste is unacceptable. Having seen the news reports of activists who pull out pounds and pounds of perfectly good food from grocery store trash bins, I'm unable to say whether what OP did was dangerous or not. But even if it was, that doesn't make buying too much food and throwing it out instead of donating it okay. Not the jerk. Food waste is outrageous in first world countries. And lettuce with an expired date? Lettuce doesn't expire in a particular date, it just gets rotten. Your wife should be more conscious of foods. I can't believe she'd rather throw food away knowing that you used to be a hungry kid and eat from the trash than making an effort to do a better shopping list. My twin sister is demanding to come with me to Japan. So to give some context, we're all from Ireland, but my boyfriend, 26, male, is half Japanese. His dad and his dad's family are from Japan, and he spent his first 12 years there, but his mom and her family are from Ireland. My boyfriend and his family go yearly to Japan, and before Christmas, they asked if I, 23, female, would like to go in March and April, which will be our 1-year anniversary. I of course said yes. I've never left the country before, and I'd like to meet the rest of his family, so it was a nice early Christmas present. My twin sister, 23, female, and her boyfriend, 28, male, found out, and they thought they were getting invited too, along with their 2 kids, who are 5 and 4. And when I told them it wasn't going to happen, they got really angry with me. It wasn't up to me to invite anyone, and even if it was, I still wouldn't invite them to the first time I'm meeting the rest of my boyfriend's family. My sister's boyfriend is a huge weeb, for lack of a better term, obsessed with one small part of Japanese culture, and when he first met my boyfriend, he said, "I can speak Japanese," to which he was quickly embarrassed. But anyway, they've been trying to guilt trip me and my boyfriend, saying how they'd do the same for me, even though they didn't when they went on holiday, which I'm not mad about. Now that hasn't been working, so recently they've been talking bad about me and my boyfriend to my family. My whole family is taking their side, saying I should just invite them, but no one seems to understand that it's not even up to me. I mean, they're more than welcome to buy their own tickets and pay for their own hotel, but no one in my family seems to understand that my boyfriend only gets to see this part of the family once a year. It's my first time meeting that part of the family, and it's our 1-year anniversary. They just think I have some duty to my twin sister and my niece and nephew. I've really been feeling bad about it, and my boyfriend has been trying to comfort me. I want an outside opinion. Am I the jerk? Not the jerk. Nobody invited them, so I can't see how they can build up this sense of entitlement required to impose themselves not on you, but on your fiance's family. If you were my prospective daughter-in-law and I extended an invitation to you for a family trip, I would be extremely salty if you brought +4 along. Scratch that. I would rescind the invitation. Not the jerk. It's so weird that they would just invite themselves. Just tell them they're welcome to book a trip at the same time. They can organize their own flights and accommodations, and if you have any free time, you'll try to catch up with them. Then don't. Afterwards, you can explain again that you were meeting your boyfriend's family and you were just too busy. Or tell them to stop being absolutely ridiculous and to live their own lives, not yours. My fiance proposed to me, but it turns out the ring is fake. So my fiance, Mark, 30 male, and I have been together for 2 years now. 2 months ago, he asked me to marry him, and he gave me a beautiful Cartier engagement ring. I was really excited, and of course I said yes. It was a beautiful ring, and I was excited to be marrying the man I love. The other day, Mark and I worked together. I overheard 2 coworkers talking about Mark. Someone mentioned that Mark makes so much money, but he didn't even give his girlfriend a real ring. The person asked for clarification, and it turns out that Mark bought a Cartier box off of eBay, then put a cubic zirconia ring into the box. I didn't want to believe it. Then I took my ring to a jeweler to get it checked. My ring is essentially worthless. It isn't anywhere near a diamond. Mark is on business right now. I'm so upset I haven't answered any of his calls or texts. I don't know what to say. Am I wrong for being this upset? I'm honestly starting to think this is a deal breaker. He's so cheap and stingy with his money, but at least I thought he'd buy me a good ring when I know he can afford it. What should I do? I'd tell him, Mark, let's go get this ring appraised for insurance purposes. It's so beautiful, I want to make sure it's protected. Then watch as his world burns around him. Or so says my significant other after I read him this post. Hold on, he's bragging about tricking you to people at work? Lord have mercy, is this fool stupid? He must be, because anyone that works in an office knows that this crap spreads like a wildfire. Not only is he stupid, he's a scammer with zero respect for your intelligence. This ain't love. Is he seriously 30 years old? Ditch this loser. He ain't worth it. When he asks you why, tell him you want someone that takes you seriously, not a clown. Update. Long story short, I finally answered Mark's calls and texts, and I kept it as calm as I could. I told him I wanted to take an insurance policy out on the ring because it was very valuable, and I was taking it to an appraiser. Mark immediately shut up and told me that I shouldn't do that until he got back, that he already had a warranty in place at the jeweler, that I shouldn't make big decisions without him. After he stopped spouting off reasons, I told him it was too late. I already took the ring to a jeweler, and I knew that not only was it a worthless piece of glass, but also silver-plated. The jerk stammered, and the only intelligent thing that came out of his mouth was, "You took it to a real jeweler?" Huge fight over finances, selfishness, and lying ensued. He accused me of being a gold digger, and I refuted this by asking him to try and remember the last time I ever made him pay for anything or buy me anything. He had no answer. I said I wanted no part of something based on a lie, and I hung up. Switched the Facebook status from engaged to single. Oh, and I changed the locks in our apartment and gave our dog to my sister to make sure he doesn't try to keep him. I paid for the dog and all of his shots. He'll have a fun time trying to get in when he comes back from his travel. Edit. I realize that I need to give this idiot a written letter that says he has 30 days to vacate. I'm giving him the letter the second he walks in. I'll give him a spare key if he insists on staying. Darn. On one hand, it seems silly to leave someone over a ring, but on the other hand, this is about so much more than the ring. It's about him manipulating and lying to you. That's unacceptable. I'm glad you found a solution that you're comfortable with. OP. Exactly. The ring just brought all the other issues to a head. I'm too angry right now to be sad, but there's no worse feeling when a man that claims to love you takes joy in manipulating you and bragging about what he did to people that knows us both personally and in a professional place. I did love him, very much so, but there comes a point where enough is enough, especially when it comes to something he knew I took very seriously. I can't be disrespected anymore. Thus, I'm putting my foot down and making sure my decision sticks. Why did he brag about his scam to coworkers when they both work at the same place? He could have gotten away with it, so long as he hadn't told anyone. The audacity of some people. That guy is an idiot. She would have learned after the silver wore off. Silver is surprisingly soft, and it would dent easily. I've had it happen with silver rings, and if it's that cheap, I bet the plating isn't even very good, like those Chinese eBay ones. It's not gold digging to want a ring that will actually last you the rest of your life. They both dodged bullets here. A lie here and there, a little digging for gold here and there. Edit. Silver is just as good. Tungsten carbide rings will last forever. There are other options that are cheaper and still look good. OP was expecting a big expensive ring and was let down when it wasn't. Karen let her brat attack me in the thrift store, and now I'm disabled. It's another night where the pain won't let me sleep. Might as well get this off my chest while I wait for the painkillers to start working. I, 22 female, used to work at a thrift store close to my house from December of last year until April. I used to go thrifting there with my mother, and I applied out of nostalgia. The work was fast-paced, but I liked it. I would have liked it more if the clothes were cleaner, if the pay was minimum wage, and, if there were no kids that would attack you. We had many regulars who, with time, I became acquainted with, mostly because I was the only Spanish-speaking worker on the sales floor. One of them was a mother of 3 whose kids always caused trouble, running around the store, breaking stuff, and no matter how many times I told the mother to keep her kids in line, she'd only scold them for a second, then let them cause havoc around the store again. I never would have guessed that one of her kids would actually attack me. This wasn't the first time that he did it, but it was the first time where it genuinely hurt. I don't know what that kid's head was made of, but when he headbutted me full force on the hip while attending his mother, I curled up and cried from the pain. I had to prevent him from doing it to me again while his mother was still looking at the red dress that I had handed to her. My only guess to why the kid attacked me was because I had the red dress in my hands, and the kid was playing pretend to be a bull. He was doing that foot thing you see bulls do in bullfighting. My managers didn't call an ambulance for me or refer me to a work accident doctor like they should have. I had to limp to my car and drive myself to my family doctor, where I waited 2 hours to be seen. I was given an X-ray, ultrasound, MRI, and painkillers. They detected an ovarian cyst, most likely from the hit. Doctors thought that was the source of my pain, but it healed since. Until this day, 6 months after the work accident, I'm still in pain and I limp. I'm currently in a workers' comp case with the thrift store's insurance, only because the mother fled when my coworkers confronted her and never came back. My lawyer said that when the case is over, I'm most likely going to be on some sort of disability pension paid by the thrift store's insurance company until, or if, I make a full recovery. It's been 6 months with no signs of getting better. I can't walk long distances, I can't sit down for long, I can't crouch, I can't jump, I can't run, and I can't lay on my left side anymore. The pain won't let me sleep. I constantly feel something whooshing around my left hip joint, and I have nightmares about that day. What I'm trying to say is, I really miss the mobility and life I used to have. My life is just constant pain now, and it's making me depressed. So, to all the parents who might see this, please, for goodness sake, keep your kids under control. Am I the jerk for not wanting to remove a tattoo dedicated to my deceased boyfriend? I, 28 female, had a boyfriend, Lachlan, who suddenly and unexpectedly passed 7 years ago, after 4 years together and over 2 years of living together. I was, of course, a complete mess after he passed. As a way to memorialize him, I got a tattoo of his name over my heart. I now have a boyfriend, 27 male, who I've been with for a year and a half. He's known since we started dating that I had a boyfriend who passed, and about the tattoo. Now that we've been together for a while and we're starting to talk about our future together, he's asked me to remove the tattoo and is offering to pay for the removal. His view is that it's unfair to him that I have a previous boyfriend's name tattooed on myself, especially in such a visible place, and asserts that no man would be comfortable with that. I haven't been in any relationships this long or this serious since Lachlan passed, so I genuinely don't know if that's true. He doesn't like that he always has to see it, and that people can see another man's name on my body when I wear singlet tops or swimmers. He thinks my reluctance to remove the tattoo is an indication that I'm hung up on another man, and if I'm not 100% over Lachlan, I can't be 100% committed to my relationship with him. My view is that I can hold space in my heart for my love and grief for Lachlan and my love for my boyfriend and intention to have a future with him. Lachlan will always be a huge part of my life, and his passing will always be a source of grief for me. The tattoo is my way of honoring the impact he had on me. I don't believe any of that detracts from my relationship with my boyfriend now. I think it's silly to be jealous of a deceased person. I feel that his concern about what others might think is a little petty, but I offered to add 1995 to 2016 underneath it so that it would be clear to others it's a memorial tattoo. He didn't accept that as a reasonable compromise. My boyfriend thinks my judgment on this might be skewed because I'm still grieving, so I want to hear impartial opinions. Am I wrong to keep a tattoo dedicated to another man over my heart while I'm in a relationship with someone else? Not the jerk. I personally find it unacceptable to make ultimatums about things like this, and the controlling behavior described in your post is not okay. If I understand correctly, he waited until you were invested in the relationship to make this demand, because he also knows it's an extreme thing to ask of someone. He's trying to convince you that no one else will ever be attracted to or understanding of you, so that you'll accept him stepping all over the things that are important to you. The fact that he's unwilling to even let you add years to make it a more obvious memorial is also very telling. There's a lot of things I want to unpack about this, but I'll leave you with one question that I feel is very important. If you do go ahead and get this memorial removed for his sake, and your relationship with him doesn't last for other reasons, how will you feel then? You'll have to live with that empty space on your chest forever, knowing you did it for someone who doesn't even value you enough to prioritize your grief over himself. Edit. Claiming you're too grief-stricken 13 to 14 years later to make decisions for yourself? Trying to convince you that this isn't just a problem he has, but everyone? Every man who could ever be interested in you? Every stranger who sees you at the pool? He's trying to stack this up as him and the whole world versus you, devalue you, and make you question your own values and judgments. I fear that this is him testing the waters on what exactly he can make you do for his approval. Not the jerk. Unfortunately, I don't think you're compatible with this man. Not everyone can grasp that Lachlan isn't your ex, he's your deceased partner. You never broke up and therefore never stopped loving him. This is hard for a lot of people, and you need to find someone who will understand and support the fact that you may hold love for Lachlan for the rest of your life. You're the jerk. Sorry, but if you think you'll ever find a good man who will be okay with this, you're very wrong. Any man who will be okay with their partner having a tattoo of her ex's name is a man without self-respect or values. But that's exactly what you want for a long-term relationship, right? You'll hook up with guys who don't respect you and just want to use you. But for marriage and financial security, you want the weakling who's obsessed with Nintendo and will agree to an open relationship when you threaten to divorce him. This is honestly a red flag on your part for him to get the heck away from you and to find someone with half a brain who will actually show him some respect. Am I the jerk for forcing the seller of our house out before her new place was ready? I, 25 female, and my husband, 25 male, moved into an apartment in October of 22, and we had been looking for a house. In January of 23, one of my mom's friends, Mary, she told my mom that she was moving into a condo about an hour away from where her house was, so that she could be closer to her mom. Mary is also mentally disabled from a work accident years ago, but is able to live alone and take care of herself. She asked if we wanted to take a look at the house, and we loved it and said we were interested in moving forward. We agreed on no realtors and to use real estate lawyers. We were also getting a discounted price. At this point, she mentioned that her condo was still under construction with a projected finish date of June. That was okay with us, and we began the process in April. As with most construction projects, there were delays, so we were patient with her as our original time frame of going to settlement and moving in June or July passed us by. I had talked to her in August, asking if my husband and I moving in October 1st works for the timing of her condo being finished. She said that it would, and I told her that was great, and that I would let my landlord know that we would be breaking our lease. I also informed our real estate lawyer and asked him to set the settlement date accordingly. Less than a week later, I received an angry email from my lawyer stating that he was quitting because Mary and I had been making plans behind his back that he was not aware of. Apparently, she had told her lawyer that we agreed to settle October 25th, which was not what we had discussed. I emailed him back and resolved the issue, but we were not to contact the owner without him. This is where I feel like I might be the jerk. My husband and I, along with our lawyer, had an incredibly uncomfortable conversation with her about how she needed to be out no later than October 13th because our lease was up on the 15th. She was crying and saying that she had no one to help her move out and that her condo was not complete because they hadn't installed safety bars for the shower yet. I explained that we would not have a place to live if she was not out and that settlement was 2 weeks prior to when we asked her to move out, so she would be living in a house that no longer belongs to her. I also said she has the ability to live with her mother while the bars are getting installed. I said there are many services available that will pack and move your stuff for you. She ignored what I said and continued to cry and actually was whimpering and calling for her mommy. I ended the call because I was so uncomfortable. She cried to my mom on the phone about this. I told my mom my side of the story, but she continues to mention that I wasn't being reasonable and should have allowed her to stay longer. I feel I was patient and accommodating throughout the process. We'd been in the house for months, but my parents still don't approve of how I handled it. Was I the jerk? This could have been resolved by using realtors and doing everything by the books. Everyone sucks here for not formally making choices and then both parties getting upset at it. Clearly, Mary has many issues going on, and she probably wanted to not do things as formally to make the moving process easier and less stressful. You got a discounted price, but did not give her what she thought she would be getting out of the deal. Mary also drug her feet and was given multiple months extra time. If she is incapacitated to the point where she really can't handle this, she should have asked for help from a family member or a friend, or someone in her life could have offered to walk her through this. I don't know. I mean, your lawyer was correct. If you wanted to go through lawyers, then you should have. That said, June to October is a ton of extra time. Also, didn't Mary have her own lawyer? That person also bears some responsibility here. Whatever Mary's problems might be, the person representing her should also be handling the fact that she can't keep adjusting her move-out date indefinitely. I, female 28, moved in and immediately caused a problem with my neighbors by not letting them use my yard anymore. Last year, I purchased a property from the estate of a couple who had owned it for 50+ years. As they got older, they spent less and less time there. By the time they passed, they hadn't lived on site for almost a decade. The property is heavily wooded with lake access from the back of the lot and was in need of serious TLC. Because of the woods and the distance between the lots, I didn't expect to see much of my neighbors. But at first, I had people stopping by all the time telling me how great it was that I was cleaning up and renovating the property. Awesome. I work from home, so it was nice to see the people living reasonably around me. So all fine until the last steps, pouring a concrete pad for my van and finishing the fencing. I hadn't moved in yet, but once the extra driveway and pad were added, I parked my van. When I returned for the final move-in, there was a massive gouge down the length of it. It was as if someone had squeezed another vehicle by or dragged something else large by it. Anyway, I moved myself and my dog in, and because of the dog and the incident with the scratched van, I closed the gates. By doing so, I cut off access to the lake through my property. It appears the neighbors have been using my entryway and side yard to get down to the water for a while, as the old owners were never here to care. I started getting notes and knocks on the door about the problem I had suddenly caused. I don't mind the occasional neighborhood kid knocking on the door to cut through, but this was non-stop. Not kidding, like 3 to 4 groups a day, and they were not always terribly polite about it. I was even asked to move my van and vehicle so people could back boats down the drive. I'm now assuming that's how my van got scratched. I start by explaining I have a dog and the normal reasons for having a fence, but I've been met with pretty intense criticism that I'm changing how things have always worked around here. Last straw for me was people opening the gate on their own and then getting upset that my dog was loose in the yard. I finally acted by putting up a no trespassing sign, a sign indicating that the dog was in the yard, locks, and an intercom by my doorbell, so when people ring, I can tell them I'm working and I don't have to come down to the door 5 times. Even though the summer season has come and gone, I'm still getting a steady barrage of notes and voicemail messages telling me that access to the lake is grandfathered in, as the previous owners allowed it, and it's been going on forever. These letters and voicemails are coming from 2 houses specifically, a woman in her 50s and a couple about the same age, who claim they represent the rest of the neighbors and the homeowners association. Although when I purchased my property, there wasn't a single thing about neighborhood covenants or an actual organized homeowners association. Sometimes the letters and voicemails take on a more formal approach. Other times they're just informing me of how bad of a person I am for ruining the neighborhood. My attorney assures me this claimed easement is absolutely not a thing, but these are people I'll presumably be living nearby for a long time, and I'd prefer to be on at least neutral terms. Is there a way to deal with this that I'm missing? Wow, that's terrible and incredibly unfortunate. Have you talked to your lawyer about the harassment? Also, what's the local PD like? OP, I'm outside of the city limits by a long way, but there is a sheriff's department that handles calls if anyone actually breaks the law. I chatted with my attorney to make sure there wasn't some type of legal easement, and while he assured me there isn't and I'm not breaking any laws, apparently my neighbors aren't breaking any laws either by calling and sending letters. You are not in the wrong. I had a very similar issue with my property. We went through the same troubles and did exactly what you're doing. Folks got the hint after the end of the second swim season. They will not like you for it, but those folks do not keep up your property or pay your taxes. Never give an inch or they'll take a mile.
Never say happy holidays to a Karen. This happened yesterday when I was working Christmas Eve at my retail job. I had already worked a full shift and was staying a little bit longer since someone had no-called, no-showed. I had maybe about 2 hours left before I could go home when Entitled Mom showed up in my line. This particular Entitled Mom is infamous at our store, and everyone tries to avoid her as much as possible, since she's a crusading type of mom who makes sure you know exactly what she stands for because she's going to go out of her way to tell you. And God help you if you're one hair out of line when it comes to her ideals.
I guess today her cause was mental health. Anyways, she gets up to me finally, and of course, she has a million different questions about various items that I just don't have the answer to. She then wants to do price matching on like 80% of her items, and the other 20% she wants to know the prices. As if that weren't bad enough, she's got her daughter with her and wants her girl to pay separately from her. I waste about 5 to 10 minutes dealing with her and her BS, with the other people in line starting to yell at me to hurry up. Finally get her and her daughter through the line without too many issues. Just when I think I'm done with her and her, I make the mistake of saying, "Happy holidays," as I hand her bags to her. I start ringing out the next customer, and I notice she's still kinda skulking about. About halfway through me getting through the next person in line, entitled mom comes behind the counter and stands right next to me to have a conversation.
Hi, sorry, I don't mean to bother you, but I know you didn't mean anything by it, but you really shouldn't be saying happy holidays. There's just people with depression and other conditions that you could trigger with language like that, since they feel like they have to be happy.
Me. Okay, can you please step away from my area here? I was super irritated, and my tone definitely reflected that.
You can drop the attitude, honey. You're the one out here endangering people by saying things like that. And right now, you're being very rude.
Me. Okay, please step back. At this point, the customer I had been ringing up is getting angry and starts yelling at me for getting distracted, which was fair. I go back to ringing her out, with entitled mom deciding that she's going to step even closer, standing less than 1 inch away from me, and continues to try to have my undivided attention, and I had finally had enough.
Me. Stand the heck back!
Things proceeded to devolve from there. Her daughter starts crying, like that obnoxiously loud kind of crying. Entitled mom is yelling. My new customer is yelling that she's not moving through the line. The whole thing is a mess. Security eventually comes and gets entitled mom away from me, and a few minutes after that, my manager pulls me off the floor and someone else takes my place at the register. To make a long story short, my manager wants me to apologize to entitled mom. I told him I wouldn't, and he ended up sending me home about an hour early as a result. I don't know if I'm fired or not, but so far I'm still on the schedule for tomorrow, so hopefully the worst I have waiting for me when I come in is a stern talking to. Do you think OP should have to apologize? Let me know in the comments below. Next we've got Dad gets fired for BS reasons, plays the long game, ends up in charge, and takes the family on a cruise. My dad had worked at the same company for almost 30 years before he was abruptly fired for complete BS. He was coordinating an upcoming meeting of people who had to fly in from around the country. One important participant resigned unexpectedly, so Dad canceled the meeting via email and explained why. Apparently, that counted as improperly communicating privileged information, and he was fired the next day. All this happened a week after Dad's boss retired and was replaced by a new guy who wanted to cut costs. What a coincidence. This was about 10 years ago, near the height of the recession. Dad was in his 50s, hadn't interviewed for a job since the early 1980s. He wasn't sure he'd ever find another job. My mom went back to work at a school to pay the bills, while Dad scrounged together what he could by doing some crappy online consulting gigs for basically minimum wage. They managed to keep their heads above water, but only barely. Dad was out of work for a year and a half. He finally landed a job at a new company 3 states away, coincidentally about an hour away from where my wife and I lived and were expecting Dad's first grandchild. Mom and Dad moved to live about 20 minutes away from us. They had paid off the mortgage on their house, so they decided to keep it and rent it out, planning to retire there in a few years. New company treated Dad very well. Better salary than he had made at old company, good benefits, and respect from his coworkers and superiors. A year later, Mom and Dad were able to buy a second, smaller house near their grandkids. Dad mentioned a few things about his time at old company to his new bosses. Nothing confidential or anything, more like overall strengths and weaknesses. Of course, the story of how he got fired came out as well. It turns out that when you work at a company for over 25 years, you learn a thing or two about how it works, and cutting costs by firing experienced employees can make your company vulnerable. New companies started to get very interested. They saw an important business opportunity and also a chance to get revenge on behalf of a valued employee. A couple years later, new company bought old company. They were both big companies, and mergers of this size take time. But when the dust settled, it was clear there were redundancies, divisions, and products that both companies had that new company only needed one of. They kept as many of old company's people as they could, and very few lost their jobs. Except, of course, for the people responsible for firing Dad. New company put Dad in charge of the building he used to work in at old company and let him choose his employees from both old and new companies. Dad had to move back to the old state, so new company helped sell his house in the new state and gave him a moving stipend of several $1,000s. But Mom and Dad were just moving back into their own house. They sold their new house, which they had made payments and improvements on for 5 years, for a nice profit. With that money, plus the moving stipend, they paid off debts, saved for retirement, and took me, my siblings, our spouses, and the grandkids on a cruise. Edit. Since people are asking, I never heard exactly what transpired when the guy who fired Dad got downsized, but since it's Christmas, I'm actually able to just ask him. Dad wouldn't say. Exit interviews are supposed to stay private. I told him about this post, with all the names left out, and that people wanted to know. He just grinned and said, that would be improperly communicating privileged information. Karen demands I produce YouTube videos for her. On Christmas Eve, my aunt dropped a holiday bomb on me, asking if I could script, film, and edit a video series about her family being the real Santa Claus family, with her husband taking on the role of Santa's son. No mention of payment, she just dove right into it. I pointed out that Hallmark had already done this several times, and besides, none of us had the time or budget for such a festive film project. I stressed that claiming our family as the real Santa crew would likely lead to ridicule, and I had zero interest in being the star of that show. Cue the holiday drama meltdown. She went ballistic, accusing me of denying her family's authenticity. She even threw in a line about letting me rot with my mother. It was confusing and a hurtful turn of events, leaving me alone in my house, shedding tears, trying to figure out how we got from point A to this. My aunt continued spewing nonsense at me, pushing me to my limit. When I said I needed a break until she could muster a proper apology, she insisted she already apologized. Yet, all she managed was a vague message in a family group chat that I rarely even look at, saying, I'm sorry to everyone about how I've been acting. I'll do better. Not an apology in my book, more like the coward's way out. I took matters into my own hands and I aired the family grievances on Facebook, explaining what went down, how it left me feeling, and officially announcing that I was cutting her out of my life. I had to broadcast the saga to the rest of the family because they were pushing me to reconcile without knowing the full deck of holiday cards. I wasn't about to play messenger pigeon, explaining the drama one by one. And just when I thought I had unwrapped all the layers of this Christmas chaos, the entitlement bomb exploded. I initially believed her behavior was the result of a misunderstanding, but no, it turns out she intentionally stirred the pot. In a public comment visible to all, she dropped the bomb. I supposedly started it because I refused to help her write a book about our family. Plot twist, I didn't even know she wanted a book. She made it sound like a video series was the grand plan. So there you have it. My holiday season is now a mix of festive drama and unexpected plot twists. 'Tis the season for family feuds that make Hallmark movies look like a walk in the park. Am I the jerk for telling my roommate that either his pregnant girlfriend stops whining or he moves out? I, 28 male, live in an apartment that I got from my uncle. The apartment has 2 bedrooms, and since I don't need the extra space, I rented the room out. My roommate, male 24, has been living with me for a little over a year and a half. He's been dating his girlfriend, who's 24, for like 5 or so years. She lives in another house and has 4 roommates herself. As her house is more crowded, my roommate asked me if it was okay if she stayed over sometimes. I agreed since I don't really have a problem with it at all, as long as they're respectful. We haven't had any major issues until now. When his girlfriend got pregnant, he told me, and I was like, oh, great, congratulations. He did try to bring up a conversation to see if I would allow her to move in with us, but I said no. I work from home most of the time. I don't want to deal with a third person or a newborn in the future. He asked me if she could still come by and stay some nights as before, and I said that was fine. She's like 4 or so months along in her pregnancy. Well, these last 3 months, she's grown to be very annoying whenever she's staying over. What I mean is that I get woken up in the middle of the night and early morning too many times because she's running to the bathroom at the end of the hallway. I don't use that bathroom. I have my own connected to my room. But my guests sometimes use it, and they have said that it's dirty and messy. She's staying over a lot more nights than she used to before. And the biggest problem is that she's developed really bad nausea. Even now, she's still having morning sickness, which I believe they must have stopped already. We have many issues regarding food because my roommate and her asked me to stop having certain foods that make her sick. I told her that this is not her house. She has no right to come and expect me to change my diet because of her. They took that very badly. I continued my life as normal. She always complains and runs to the bathroom when I cook. There have been a couple of times when she's actually thrown up on the floor too, which is disgusting. I'm sick of it, to be honest. So I told my roommate that either she stops coming over, she stops complaining, or he moves out. I would give him a month or two if he needs it to find somewhere else to live, but I'm tired of having his girlfriend over. She's annoying me. He, of course, got very upset and said that she wouldn't annoy me so much if I were more understanding of her condition. Said that they're not in a comfortable position to move, that she's sick and needs his support and all of that. Some of my friends and coworkers and family are on my side, but others are saying that I'm behaving like a total jerk and I could easily change my diet for a couple of months. Am I the jerk? Edit. Y'all are right. I need to evict him. It sucks because even though we're not friends, he was a good roommate and all, but it's too risky to have him here when the baby is born. Hopefully they can find somewhere else to live. I'll try to have the conversation with him today. Consult a lawyer. There are definitely protections in place regarding housing discrimination for having a kid. It's his kid. This can be the baby's primary residence, even if she doesn't move in. Find out your rights sooner rather than later regarding not re-signing his lease or whatever, and it would be easier before the baby. OP. Actually, one of my colleagues also told me this, so I'm trying to find a lawyer already for all of the legal information I might need. I'm mostly struggling with the moral side of this whole issue. Not the jerk. She doesn't live there, and you've made it clear you don't want an infant in the house since you work from home. While I do agree you might be a little more accommodating while she's there, your roommate and his girlfriend need to move into their own space to prepare for the baby. They made a choice to get pregnant and stay pregnant, so they need to adult up and prepare for bringing another life into this world that they will need to support. I was going to say everyone sucks here until she threw up on the floor multiple times. That's nasty. While I know you can't control morning sickness, she should be able to make it to a bathroom or a sink or the trash can. Not the jerk, but you'd better evict him now. If you wait until the baby is born, what if he elects to have the kid live with him? You can't forbid that without violating fair housing laws. Evict him now so it's not an issue. Or roll the dice and take your chances, but then be ready to take what's coming to you. I told my wife that she couldn't do it without me. Turns out she can. I made one stupid, selfish comment to my wife a week or so ago, and now my life is in disarray. My wife is in some crisis. Her work is closed and she's being paid, but she's home with our kids now, including one 3-year-old. She gets breaks on Monday and Friday with childcare. We went into having kids knowing she wanted to be a working mother, so this has been an adjustment to say the least. On to the original fight. She spent a long day with our kids and the neighbor's kids, and when I came home from work and she asked for a break, I didn't respond well. I made excuses and didn't offer help, and for the first time in years, my wife lost her temper and cursed at me. Like an idiot, I dug in and thought I was right. I admit we both said some unkind things, but after Reddit humbled me and she made me sit down and write a list of things I did for the family that day and compared it with her longer list, I apologized. She accepted and I figured things would go back to normal. They haven't. My wife used to include me in parenting our kids. I did dance pickup most weeks and bedtime was split. I did baths, made dinner, all that stuff. Since our fight, my wife hasn't asked me for any help with the kids. The first morning I woke up on what was supposed to be my morning with the kids. I figured she was just being nice or trying to prove a point, but it keeps happening. She didn't even send them down to say goodnight last night. Normally, my wife does this silly game where she sends my son to ask me to read 5 books, and then we would negotiate down to 1 or 2 and race upstairs. Last night, I heard her racing him and came up to find her doing bedtime yet again. The kids haven't even noticed. It's like she's replacing me. When we were fighting, I said something really dumb that's living inside me and festering. My wife was being nasty and said, "You wouldn't see the kids a quarter as much as you do if I didn't arrange it, and I'm done managing you." I defended myself. I'm not an absent parent, and said something along the lines of, "I'd like to see how long you can manage without me." Consider my foot officially in my mouth. She started running again. She's cooking really healthy and often. Every night I come home to my perfectly happy Stepford wife doing it all without me, and I feel empty inside. How do I fix this? I don't even know where to begin. At this point, I want to beg her to go back to how things were. This wasn't what we agreed on. Edit. Okay guys, I get it. I'm a jerk. I'm going to make this right. And thank you to the handful of people that reached out with advice. Believe it or not, I do want to be a good father and husband. I royally messed up, and I see that, and I'm fully admitting it. This is going to be my only edit, and then I'm going to get off my phone for a while and focus on my family. My wife had dinner cooked when I got home. Everything is fine between us, so there wasn't any tension. After we cleaned up, I went upstairs and ran my wife a bath, put Taylor Swift on her Alexa, and lit a few candles. I told her to go relax upstairs for the night. She was surprised, but smiled and went on her way. I'm currently handling bath time. People mentioned love bombing, etc., but I'm just trying anything I can to show her I do appreciate and love her and our family, and I want to be a present father. I'm going to do bedtime tonight and probably all next week. I'll tell her she does so much during the day and deserves the break because it's the truth. I get that I come off as a jerk. I grew up in a not great situation and didn't have the best role models growing up. I'm terrified of my kids not having enough, and I overcompensate by working too much. This new job came with a big pay increase, but the hours are longer and I feel like I can never keep up. I reached out to a few recruiters tonight. I used to love my job and was always home by 4:30, even if it means taking the lost income. I'm thinking about going back. Relationships are hard and humans aren't perfect. For all the people telling me my kids don't love me and I'm a waste of space, I don't know guys. Just remember I'm an actual person. That crap is rough. Anyways, that's all I have for you folks. Stop waiting for your wife to ask for help with your kids. If you're an active parent, you shouldn't need to be asked to help. It's a combined responsibility. Also, talk to your wife. She's rightly upset because you're treating the kids as her responsibility that you help when asked. Be proactive. Stop taking her for granted. Find out what you need to do to make amends. You absolutely are an absent parent if the only time you do things is when she asks or when she actively includes you. It's not her job to tell you when and how to be a parent. If you were an active parent and spouse, you wouldn't be posting this on Reddit. I take it you still haven't apologized. So to summarize, your wife is done telling you what you need to do, so you turn to Reddit to tell you what to do. Your wife deserves better. She deserves a husband that doesn't want to be told what to do, how to be a partner. She deserves a husband that doesn't wait to be told what to do, how to be a partner, how to spend time with the kids. You wrote lists of what each person does. You've noticed with your own eyes the stuff she has done without you. Perfect. Take her list and do all of those activities before she can. If she starts doing something on the list, look her in the eye and tell her that you'll do it. She deserves to be treated like a partner, and you appreciate all the other times she has done it without being told thank you. You also need to continue apologizing. Nothing to add, but I hope your wife divorces you. You come on here whining you don't know what to do. She told you, be an active parent. You shouldn't have to be told what to do with your kids. Be a parent, take initiative. If she's begging for a break, that's a huge red flag. Good for her for cooking healthier and running. She's practicing for when she's a single parent and managing alone. My wife told her friend she doesn't love me more than her ex and that I was her second option. I'm 33, male. My wife, Sarah, who's 32, is the love of my life. She's a woman of charm, grace, beauty, and accomplishment. I met her through mutual friends 6 years ago who thought that we'd be a good fit. At first, Sarah didn't seem too impressed with me, but as we chatted, she warmed up to me and we even exchanged numbers. We went on a date and had an amazing time that turned into another date, which turned into us dating and then eventually getting married. Sarah is such a warm, caring person who helped me through some tough times and was always there to pick me up, dust me off, pat me on the back, and help me forward. I thought she would be the woman I'd raise a family with and grow old together with, but maybe this isn't the case. Last week, I was clearing our driveway from snow when I came back in the house to go to the restroom, and I overheard a phone conversation between Sarah and a friend of hers. Our house is very echoey, and I don't think she realized I was in the house because she thought I was still clearing the driveway. Recently, her friend broke up with her long-term boyfriend because she didn't feel like they were a long-term match. That's when Sarah said, unprompted, and I quote, because it was burned into my brain, "I mean, it's a good thing you did this now. You don't want to end up with your second or third option like I did." I swear I thought she was joking, but from the tone of her voice, I could tell she wasn't. Something told me to pull out my phone and record, so I did. The conversation continued with her saying, "He's not the love of my life, but I do love him." And I guess the worst part that she said, "If Paul," her ex, "wasn't so terrified of marriage, I'd probably still be with him." She did conclude by saying that she really did love me, but it wasn't head over heels love, and that she thought I was a great husband and would be a good father someday. I have this all on recording. I was confused and flustered in that moment and forgot I had to go to the restroom, so I went back outside to continue clearing the driveway. Inside, I was destroyed. I felt like a zombie just going through the motions. When I finished up, I went back inside and I finally looked at her and I just felt empty. She smiled at me, but I didn't give her one back. She asked me what was wrong, so I just told her I felt sick. That night, I just stuck to myself and didn't say much. The next day, over some beers, I asked my best friends in the world, who are 33 and 34, what they thought about the recording, and they immediately said to divorce. My friend Ashley, 34 female, said, "If a woman admits that she doesn't love you more than her ex, there's nothing more to say." A day later, I brought this to my sister and parents, who took the opposite approach. They said I should listen to her words carefully and that she said she does love me, that she chose to commit to me, and that even though I'm not her soulmate, I shouldn't take commitment and an admission of love so lightly. I've been faking being okay at home, and I don't think I can keep this act up much longer. She's been extremely suspicious since that day and constantly asks me if anything is wrong. I have no idea what to do, but I know I need to make a decision soon. Can you guys see anything here that I can't? Should I give Sarah a chance? Do you think she really loves me? You need to sit her down and say, "Sarah, I heard you on the phone the other day. I came in from clearing the driveway and I couldn't help but overhear you tell your friend that I wasn't your first choice and I'm not the love of your life and that you'd still be with Paul if he wasn't shy of marriage." And that's it. That's all you say. You don't mention the recording. You let her do all of the talking and then you head out somewhere for a few hours and think about whether her explanation makes any sense to you. Then you can think about what comes next. You should be honest with her. You overheard her. Don't give her the recording, keep that for yourself. In my opinion, if it were based on me, it's not worth it to be second choice or option for anyone. I refuse to settle. Some people, I suppose, don't mind it, the way your wife is. But yeah, I wouldn't do that. And you deserve to be first, also as in, not second choice. If you do stay with her, you have to be aware that this is how she truly feels about you. I'm not saying that her love will not grow, etc., but she did regret settling down with you as you heard. It's just sad to know that if Paul ever stepped back into the picture, her true love, and said, "I messed up, let's get married," she would drop you like a sack of potatoes. Everyone everywhere is trying to get with someone that they think is a little above their pay grade. Girls generally have more options than guys do. This scenario, I would think, is statistically likely with every girl you'll ever meet. As a woman, I can honestly say that lots of us never really get over our first love. That kind of naive love where you throw everything into the relationship, really think you're going to spend the rest of your life together, and feel completely head over heels. Then it suddenly comes to an end because the guy, for her, doesn't want to commit. It's really hard to get over that, and you carry it with you forever. Everyone has got a Paul, and not many people stay with their Paul forever. I'm 36 and still think about my first experience. It ended badly and damaged my entire outlook on life. I've never been able to fall completely in love again in the same way because I got hurt. There's a little wall now which makes me incredibly guarded and not really willing to trust anyone completely or imagine a future without thinking about what could go wrong. I think very carefully about men I'm attracted to and take my time to figure out what goes on beyond that initial attraction. I know for a fact that most of my female friends look back and think about their first experience of love with rose-tinted glasses as it's the only one they were so blissfully unaware of the feeling of hurt. There's only one chance you get to throw yourself fully into a love story, and if it doesn't work out, it just shatters that Disney-type trope we all grew up with and thought was real. After that, women either learn the lesson and look for a more stable partner, or they do the opposite and continue to interact with bad boys. We can spend hours discussing partners and relationships and any prospective partner's pros and cons with our friends. There's nothing wrong with you. Your partner loves you, she said so herself, but she's also thought deeply about the relationship and thinks that beyond love, there's companionship and more. She's been hurt and let down and doesn't want to feel that way again. She thinks you're a great person and has chosen to commit to you and build a future with you. It goes beyond love when she trusts you and feels safe and secure with you. My dog ate all of my girlfriend's shoes. My girlfriend just moved in with me a couple of weeks ago. My dog is pretty well trained, but shoes are his weakness. I've tried everything to get him to stop chewing on shoes, but ultimately I decided to just not leave shoes laying around anymore and always put them away. This worked well when I lived on my own, but the closet at the front isn't big enough for all of my girlfriend's shoes, so they've been sitting in bins since she moved in. She's on vacation with her friends right now, and I made her a nice walk-in closet/makeup room off of our bedroom as a surprise since there wasn't enough closet room in our house for both of our stuff. I brought all of her shoes up yesterday to try and figure out the shelving spacing, and I forgot to put the lids back on the bins before I left for work. I got home this morning to find every single shoe she owns completely destroyed by my dog. Only a couple of shoes look like they could be fixable, but there isn't even one pair that remains wearable. My dog was quite proud of himself. My girlfriend is the type of person who's very methodical with her clothing and shoes. Everything she owns has been carefully selected, brands have been researched thoroughly, and she takes immaculate care of her things. That is to say that they are all pretty expensive, $100 to $500 per pair, and in perfect condition. There's over 30 pairs of shoes. I've estimated that the cost of replacing the ones I can find new online at $6,000, and that doesn't include some of the brands that I don't recognize and can't find online or some that are no longer being sold. I'm not really sure where to go from here. I was able to find around 20 pairs of the shoes online in the exact style that she had, and I'm wondering if I should order those now and hope they can get here before she gets home. Obviously, there's no hiding this, but I'm wondering if it would make her feel a bit better to at least have some shoes to choose from. I'm pretty sure that if I told her to go spend the amount and damage on new shoes, she wouldn't because we're saving up to buy a new house, and she'd rather put the money towards that. But I know she would be sad about not having all the choices that she'd had before. Any advice? What you actually need to do is not about the shoes. What you need to do is find a way to train your dog not to destroy her shoes, or else to show her that you found a way to keep the dog away from the shoes. The shoes can be replaced, and obviously doing so or offering to do so is a very nice gesture. But I think the important thing here is showing that you want to solve the problem. Like you said, you're saving for a house, so you can't afford to consistently replace shoes, rather than coming up with a more permanent solution. OP: yeah, I know. I, for some reason, can't train him out of it. I can only discipline him if I catch him chewing on the shoes, and he'll only do it when I'm not home. So the solution was to keep them locked away. That's one of the reasons I built the closet, but since the door wasn't fully installed yet and the bins were open, he had full access. But once it's finished, it shouldn't be a problem, as long as we remember to close the door. Update: the general consensus from the first post was that I should buy a few key pairs before she gets home, so I decided to go with that. It was hard because where we live, we are transitioning from winter to summer, so I had to buy winter boots, rain boots, sandals, runners, and various types of work shoes. Only about half of them arrived before she got home on Friday. I wish I could have bought them in person so I could have been certain that they would be here, but I wasn't able to since winter stuff is out of season and lots of the brands she likes are only available online. Friday, I picked her and her friends up from the airport. When we got a second of alone time, I told her about the shoe situation. She was upset initially. She wasn't mad at me or our dog, but more mad that it happened. I decided not to tell her about the awesome closet that I built her while she was gone and just hoped that the surprise would soften the blow. On the car ride back, she told her friends what happened, and they really helped turn it into a positive event that she could laugh about. She would only get sad when she remembered shoes that she spent a long time breaking in. Apparently, her Birkenstocks took 2 full summers before they reached max comfiness, so that was what she was the most sad about. I felt awful about that. I actually took those ones to a cobbler because I knew she would be the most upset about them, but they couldn't be salvaged. They were too far gone. When we got home, she wanted to see the carnage. I wasn't sure it was a good idea because I was kind of expecting her to cry, but she just thought it was funny. She had me make a small pine casket for the shoes while her and her friends got absolutely blasted, and we buried them in the backyard that night. She did cry briefly, but she was a trooper nonetheless. Her friends decided it was only fair for me to purchase every pair of shoes she wants for the rest of our lives and I drunkenly agreed. A decision that I'm sure will cost me a small fortune, but I stand by it all the time. Over the past few days, she's ordered all of the shoes she needed to replace the ones she lost. She only reordered around 10 pairs that she previously owned, so it was a good thing I didn't go ahead and reorder them all. She already had a Pinterest of every pair she wanted and had deemed to be worthy of her collection, which made it a fairly quick process. All in all, it cost us around twice what I had anticipated, but she didn't break up with me, so I'll call it a win. I'm just glad I was able to afford it. I couldn't imagine how awful it would be to be in the position without being able to pony up. It's going to set me back a few months on buying an engagement ring, but I'm sure that won't be an issue. For everyone concerned about the dog, she isn't worried about getting him trained more because he behaves perfectly otherwise. She said if anything, I need to be trained not to be a careless idiot. Joking aside, it was a fluke, and we're usually very good about keeping the shoes put away. I made the doors to her closet and our front closet self-closing so we would never need to worry about leaving them open. Like my girlfriend, the poor guy can't resist shoes, so we don't really blame him for what happened. In fact, we're quite proud that he managed to accomplish this in 12 hours that I was away.
Karen posted a rude TikTok of my mother, so I got her fired. May sound implausible, but setting, coffee shop in small town America. Most people know each other, so not really that out of the ordinary. There's a nice indie cafe a few blocks from my house, which I, 28 male, go to a couple of times weekly. Servers all know me. This month, I had my mom with me, her visiting the US for the first time. Mom spent all her life in a Southeast Asian country. Her English is not good, etc. Anyway, I go to work one day last week. Mom wanders over to the cafe. I get home that night, ask Mom how her trip to the cafe was. She says it's nice, told me what she got, and oh no, I forgot she doesn't know about tipping here. Where she lives, there's a large service charge included, so you don't really tip in eateries, and definitely not in small ones. Completely my bad, and entirely my fault for forgetting to inform her. I ask her which server. She describes someone I know as Jane, around 25, female. I go to the cafe the next day the minute it opens. I see Jane is working, and I apologize profusely. Explain that my mom doesn't know about tipping and give her a 70% tip. Bill came up to around $10, so it really wasn't breaking the bank. She's understandably slightly cool, but I apologize to the best of my ability. I thought that was that. No, 2 days later, a colleague texts me a link to a TikTok. Jane apparently has a sizable TikTok following where she talks about being a barista, her customers, how to make X or Y drink. Nice stuff. Except a video from the day my mom visited, where Jane videoed the back and side of her head, made jokes about people coming over from who knows where and not tipping because it's man-eat-dog world out there. Quietly barked on video. She didn't seem to notice it was at her. Lots of shares and likes and comments, by the way. Gave her the benefit of the doubt. Went over the next day and politely asked her to take it down. She said no, it's her right, and it was her degrading experience. Manager comes over. Jane tells the tipping part and that she made a video out of desperation and she wouldn't take it down. I tell manager that I came back, apologized, tipped her 70% and explained my mom didn't know. I showed her the TikTok and manager's face changes. She doesn't discipline Jane in front of me, but from what I hear, she was let go immediately. Now her mother is posting on her own and my Facebook, as well as hinting on the community Facebook group about certain people not respecting servers and causing Jane to be fired. Several people, many who don't know the whole story, are agreeing with her, even discussing setting up a collection. Almost total belief that I am the jerk, no mention of TikTok. Am I the jerk? Should I have dragged my 70-year-old mom in to apologize to Jane? What exactly can I do now? Won't fix the ramp, but give me the ability to close it? Okay then. A few years ago, I ended up working at a remote work site. The crew I worked with had multiple jobs, one of which was unloading the truck that came in once a week with all of the site's food. The unloading area was at the back of the kitchen and hadn't been designed well originally. It was an uneven gravel ramp which led up to a roughly 4-foot loading dock. In an ideal world, the truck would be able to back up to the loading dock and the job would be reasonably easy. However, the ramp also wasn't very wide. There was a dog leg in the run up to it, and also the truck would be at an angle, so moving the pallets of food would be tough. So the workaround was to have a forklift take the food from the truck, drive up the gravel ramp, and drop the food on the dock. When I first got there, we had a forklift operator who had worked with a forklift for years. He was good, like really good. He made it seem easy. This wasn't my first job working around forklifts, and I really appreciated how good this guy was. I'm not sure how many others, especially management, realized that he made this short but tricky run in the forklift look way easier than it actually was. He left, and management scrambled to get another guy licensed to drive the forklift. This guy didn't have the experience, and he struggled. He lost a load off his forks at one point, and it was kinda scary. He was a yes man, and there weren't many other options, so he persevered. A lot of us were worried it was just a matter of time before he tipped the forklift over the edge of the ramp. The solution would have been to redesign the ramp, or at least pave it. The gravel was a large part of the problem. It was a little thick, so the tires would spin, a bit off kilter, and it would develop potholes. The forklift needed to get a run-up to carry speed up this ramp. That's how bad it was. We complained, but the company didn't want to do anything because they were building a new kitchen on the other side of the camp, so this one was going to be decommissioned. However, there had been zero work done on the new kitchen in the 3 to 4 months I'd been there. This remote site was in Australia, and they have some pretty strict health and safety laws there. Companies will often have you fill out cards every day of what we saw that was maybe dangerous. I filled out one for this ramp every single week we had to use it, but they didn't do anything. The system was really there to cover themselves, i.e., you knew it was dangerous, it says here on the card, so why did you keep doing the thing? While also expecting us to keep doing the thing. How else were we going to get the food inside? However, one of the other rules pretty much gave the right for any employer to tag out something that isn't safe. The company can't overrule this, as if they do, and then something happens, it's on them. These tags are normally used with machinery, i.e., the machine is broken, can't be used until it's fixed. The tag-out system is not really designed for an area. Cue malicious compliance. The ramp is broken/dangerous. I decided I'm going to tag it out. I collected some cones and ropes and tagged it out. Went straight into the office to tell management what I did. Their faces were priceless. They had a week to come up with a solution, as I did this immediately after we had unloaded the weekly food drop. At first, they told us that from now on, we'd have to walk the boxes of food up to the storage areas. This was obviously an attempt to turn the other crew members on me. However, the cooks stopped that idea in its tracks. The weather was hot, the majority of the food was chilled or frozen. We were only so many. There would have been a lot of food waste. So after a day or so, they got to work putting in a paved path for the forklift. It was the bare minimum they would do, because they were building a new kitchen. But apparently it cost them $7,000 and pulled guys away from other duties to do it. Needless to say, I was not a popular person, and I heard that some of management wanted to fire me, but there was nothing they could do. I left 2 months later anyway.
What would you do if your fiance's family stalked you and ruined your reputation? That's exactly what happens in our next video, the one that just popped up on the screen. Give it a tap, come have a listen. You won't believe what happens next.